will be resumed after it was interrupted on Wednesday of 22nd December 2021 in the morning session. There is also the Law of Succession Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2021 by Senator Abshiro Halake. Again, this will be a resumption of debate that was interrupted on Wednesday, 2nd of March 2022 in the morning session. The 7 bills that are set to be considered in a committee of the whole will call for division among the members. So again, this will be subject to the quorum of the House for the members to be able to go into division on these bills. There are 7 bills that will need the members of the Senate to go into a committee of the whole to consider these particular bills. A look at the Law of Succession Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 15 of 2021 by Honorable Senator Abshiro Halake, is that the principal object of that bill is to amend the Law of Succession Act to provide for gender equity in succession matters. The bill in amending the Law of Succession Act seeks to ensure that the Act provides for gender equity with regards to succession matters. The bill therefore ensures that the widow and widower lose their life interest in the whole of the remainder of the net intestate estate once they remarry. The bill further seeks to exclude community land from the ambit of succession. That is part of what the bill talks about. It is a bill that will see members proceed on a committee of the whole to give out a few amendments, proposals on amendments on this particular bill. For instance, there is an amendment that will be forwarded by the Chairperson Standing Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs and Human Rights Committee that intends to move a number of amendments on the Law of Succession Amendment Bill, specifically on Clause 6 on the interest of the surviving spouse under subsection 1B, that it shall determine upon remarriage that notwithstanding subsection 1, where the surviving child is not a child of the surviving spouse, that the surviving spouse shall be entitled to the personal and household effects of the deceased absolutely and a life interest in 1/2 of the whole residue of the net intestate estate, and the surviving child shall be entitled to 1/2 over the whole residue of the net intestate estate, which shall be held in accordance with section 41, and if there be more than one child, they shall share equally. Those are a number of or rather few amendments that are expected to be forwarded on this particular bill by Senator Abshiro Halake. Again, this afternoon, there's a motion on the adoption of reports of the sessional committee. At the entrance of the chambers, Honorable Judith Pareno has stepped into the chambers. She will be overseeing this afternoon session. I will now hand you over for the live broadcast brought to you by PBU in cooperation with KBC. Good afternoon.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, I take this opportunity to welcome you back from the short recess. I hope you had time to meet with your constituents, friends, and family over the past week. Sittings for part 2 of the calendar commence from today, Thursday, 22nd March, until the rise of the Senate on Thursday, 7th April 2022. We resume sittings at a very critical time in the life of the 12th Parliament. You will all agree with me that the coming general elections are on every senator's mind, and indeed in that of many Kenyans. However, we have a constitutional mandate to fulfill as a House, which must be executed. As I mentioned at the commencement of the 6th session in February, our plate is already full with 19 bills of the second reading, and 11 bills at the committee stage. Committee of the whole stages. Petitions submitted pursuant to Article 119 of the Constitution, motions and statements pursuant to Standing Orders 47 and 48. However, there are 10 bills and a number of statements that have been dropped from the program of business pursuant to Standing Orders 59.3 due to the unavailability of movers to prosecute them at the time which they were scheduled on the order paper. Movers of such business who wish to pursue them are urged to make an appeal to the Speaker in writing for a statement in the weekly program of Senate business. I urge that we rededicate ourselves to our constitutional role of legislation, oversight, and representation of the people of Kenya. I also urge that we ensure that vital legislative business is passed so that attendant processes have necessary legislative backing. In this regard, I call upon the offices of the Senate Majority Whip and the Senate Minority Whip to ensure that the requisite number of senators is achieved so that the Senate may proceed to divisions. Honorable Senators, very shortly, pursuant to Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order 181 of the Senate will consider the Division of Revenue Bill. As is standard practice, this bill is ordinarily introduced in the National Assembly and referred to the Senate. The bill was referred to the Senate and read first time on 8th March 2022. It has now been scheduled for second reading as indicated in today's order paper at order number 15. After enactment of the Division of Revenue Act, the County Allocation of Revenue Bill will be introduced pursuant to Standing Order 182 of the Senate. The passage and assent of these bills, together with the cash disbursement schedule, will ensure that county governments have the necessary resources for their projects and programs, and that they can, in turn, make their individual budgets before the start of the next financial year in July 2022. I urge the offices of the Senate Majority Whip and the Senate Minority Whip in the same spirit to ensure the requisite numbers for the Senate to proceed to divisions on these financial instruments. Honorable Senators, a lot of work is also pending before select committees of the Senate. I urge respective committees to double their efforts to conclude the pending business before them. In the coming weeks, we shall receive reports pursuant to Standing Order 51(1)B, where we look forward to hearing the impact that the work of the committees is making and their plans for the next few months. I wish you fruitful deliberations and wish all senators, honorable senators, well in the remaining part of the calendar. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Senate Majority Leader.
Take your bundle.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, 22nd March 2022. 1, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Kericho County Assembly Staff Car and Mortgage Fund for the year ended 30th June 2018. 2, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Kericho County Assembly Staff Car and Mortgage Fund for the year ended 30th June 2019. 3, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Baringo County Assembly Catering and Health Services Scheme Fund for the year ended 30th June 2020. 4, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Kakamega County Dairy Development Corporation for the year ended 30th June 2020. 5, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Bomet County Executive Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme Fund for the year ended 30th June 2020. 6, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Narok Water and Sewerage Services Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2020. 7, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Kapsabet Nandi Water and Sanitation Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2020. 8, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of the Uasin Gishu County Emergency Fund for the year ended 30th June 2020. 9, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Kisumu County Car and Mortgage Scheme Fund for the year ended 30th June 2019. Ten, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Nairobi City County Water and Sewerage Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2020. 11, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of the Lamu County Emergency Fund for the year ended 30th June 2020. 12, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Lamu County Fisheries Development Revolving Fund for the year ended 30th June 2020. 13, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Tana River County Executive Staff Car Loan and Mortgage Fund for the year ended 30th June 2020. 14, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Garissa Water and Sewerage Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2020. 15, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Garissa County Revolving Fund for the year ended 30th June 2020. And 16, report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Council of Governors for the year ended 30th June 2020. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Senator Musuruve.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have two statements on 47-1 and 48-1. I begin with the one on 47 on rampant cases of candidates missing exams. Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 47-1 to make a statement on the rampant cases of candidates who went missing on exam day. Honorable Speaker, 46 KCPE candidates went missing from Embu County on exam day. Efforts by local authorities to trace them before the KCPE exams started proving futile. Embu County Director of Education, James Kairu, confirmed that the pupils were not found and therefore missed the national test. It was reported that a multi-agency team, including police and local government authorities to assist in locating the learners, were futile. The Embu County Director of Education explained that some of the missing learners were from families which were evicted from a contested piece of land believed to be under the ownership of the Tana and Athi Rivers Development Authority, that is TADA. Honorable Speaker, Hilary Lisimba, a journalist, reported that in 20 2021, 3 weeks before national exams began, thousands of learners went missing. Some of these learners became pregnant, others joined the border business, while the rest disappeared without a trace. At the height of COVID-19, when parents lost their sources of income, the situation forced some children to either move out of school or take up manual jobs for survival. In volatile areas like Mandera and Kapedo, students fled together with their parents due to rising cases of insecurity, lack of teaching staff, and recurrent drought. A learner at Kisole Primary School in Mwingi, Kitui County, was unable to write her exam because she lost her eyesight as a result of brain tumor. 2 other candidates in the constituency were taken ill and admitted at Mwingi Level 4 Hospital as well, hence missing out on the national exams. These are just very few examples out of the very many cases. Honorable Speaker, primary level national exams have a salient role in transitioning pupils to secondary schools. Failure to sit for these exams exposes learners to a precarious state of not transitioning to secondary school with the rest of their classmates. During this exam period, I call upon the Ministry of Education to intervene in ensuring that supplementary exams are availed to learners who have missed the exams due to unforeseeable and valid reasons. As a society, we need to appreciate that learners hail from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. Hence, investigations need to be commenced on a case-by-case basis for missing learners to be afforded an opportunity to do the exams. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I have another statement.
Maybe you can order Senator Gertrude. I will allow a few comments from the senators. Senator Mwaura Isaac.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the statement by my good sister, Senator Gertrude Musuruve Inima. You know, Senator Musuruve, the name Musuruve comes from the name Miss Reeves, so it's a very interesting mispronunciation, but it was good because it ended up producing a senator in the name of this indefatigable lady. We can call her the Iron Lady of Disability because she's always present. I think if we look at the history of the 12th Parliament, the 3rd Senate, Senator Musuruve would actually rank very highly amongst the people who have contributed. She's usually the default seconder of many statements, bills, motions, whatever agenda that is put across on the floor of this House. Madam Speaker, I think this statement is very important because it looks into the idea that students can disappear purely because of fear around exams, and I think that's not very good. While the etiology of their disappearance may not be known for now, it is incumbent upon the country to really demystify the exams so that people do not look at them as death sentence, as to disappear on the eve of exams. I think our security apparatus may have actually failed to locate these students as of now. And this is my county in a way because I'm married from Embu, so I don't know what's happening to this Embu issue. And I don't think that is just a question of reportage. Could be these cases also are rampant everywhere else. And Madam Speaker, we need to put in place measures to ensure that we protect our candidates as and when they are supposed to do exams. But it actually speaks further to the issue of the fact that our exams are actually hyped so much. People feel like if they do not do them, they are actually going against the grain. They are doing a disservice to their community and particularly their families. We need to really ensure that we actually assure our students that even if they do not do well, that's just a grading system, that those who are not as good may as well end up in polytechnics. They will still be useful members of society. In any case, some of the most successful people in society are not necessarily who speak the best of English. They are not the people who have passed all of the exams. That's just one facet of life, and I think that's a message I would want to send to the country from this floor of the House, that we need to have a system that is also very, very conducive. I don't know whether this would change, Madam Speaker, with the advent of the CBC, because it's outcome-based and so therefore, and competence-based, and so therefore it is going to help people to understand that examination is not just when you are sitting down to write a paper. So, Madam Speaker, I think this matter should be taken with the seriousness it deserves, and I think the relevant committee, I don't know whether it's an education committee, whether it is a security committee or combined, they need to give us an answer so that it doesn't become, a tradition. Because most likely these students, wherever they are, they may actually appear after the exams are over, and they may be in bad shape. Remember, in Nigeria, girls disappeared because of Boko Haram for many, many times, and by the time they were discovered, they were high school girls. Most of them were actually married and were even pregnant. So we fear not just for their physical security, but also in terms of their mental and physical and other forms of statuses. Madam Speaker, I support this statement.
Senator Cherarke Samson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I want to thank our very active Senator Gertrude Musuruve, for this statement, which is timely. I think from the start, we want to wish all our candidates, KCSE candidates in Nandi County and across the country, all the best and good health as they tackle the exams. Madam Speaker, I agree with her that there are many issues that we need to deal with at this time, and the disappearance of these candidates from Embu County is unfortunate. Madam Speaker, I want to bring to the attention also, I've seen indicating other areas like Kapedo and many other areas because of insecurity like Mandera and Kapedo. I want also to bring the attention to the nation that Kerio Valley, around 2-3 days ago, there was an attack. It was even reported in media. As we talk, the students and children who are doing their KCSE in Kerio Valley, which has suffered a lot of insecurity in Elgeyo Marakwet County, continue to be suffering and to live in fear and intimidation. And you know, Madam Speaker, a few weeks ago, or a month ago before, a bus was attacked in the same place near Kerio Valley and in Elgeyo Marakwet County because of insecurity. So I think I've seen the ministry officials led by the CS responding on the issues of exam cheating and irregularities in exams. But we also need the ministry to update the country on the state of many students who continue to miss this very important in their lives, Madam Speaker. Because you know KCSE is one of the critical yardsticks into progressing to either tertiary learning or education of higher learning. So it is unfortunate that as we talk, there are so many students who are not doing their exams in Embu County, in Mandera, in Kapedo, even in Kerio Valley, because of many security, even across the country generally. So, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Education should, one, give the update the nation on all the learners, Madam Speaker, that have missed their exams because of insecurity, because of other issues that might have forced some of these students not to do exams, Madam Speaker. So I really call upon that even as they give us update on the ongoing process of examination KCSE, Madam Speaker, the CS in charge of education and the PS and the government must tell us there were students that registered for national exams, how many are missing instead of sitting for their KCSE exams. Could it be because of insecurity? Could it be because of early pregnancies? Could it be because of other family matters? So that we are aware, Madam Speaker, and if possible, my proposal, as we conclude on this matter, Madam Speaker, is there a possibility of these students who miss to sit for KCSE, knowing that it is important for transitioning to higher learning, to have an opportunity of Kenya National Examination Council creating and giving them an opportunity to do those exams again? Can they be traced? Can the chiefs and GAO officers be used to trace them and allow them to sit for exams, especially areas like Kerio Valley, because of insecurity, areas that like Embu and many other areas that are suffering insecurity, Madam Speaker. So I support and congratulate Senator Gertrude Musuruve for this timely statement, especially as the national examination is ongoing. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Pogisio Samuel.
Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity to congratulate and support our sister Gertrude Musurube for being so active in her participation in legislative affairs, in legislating. Madam Speaker, I've always wished and hoped that people she wants to represent are watching, and they are weighing in on what she can do. Madam Speaker, this is a very interesting and very serious matter. The only problem I have with the statement is the use of the word disappearance. Because, Madam Speaker, disappearing may create the impression that something is happening, you know, it's, some kind of rupture is happening to our children. It is just the failure to do exams, the failure to present themselves to the exam, and what are the circumstances. And so those are the things that we need to think about. The chiefs in those areas, the teachers in those areas, the parents in those areas should be able to explain what's happening to our children. But because early pregnancies, Speaker, don't stop people from sitting for exams. So what are these issues that stop the kids from doing exams? It's also important, Madam Speaker, for me to use this opportunity to wish all our candidates in the KCSE exam success as they sit the exam, those in West Pokot County, whom I represent, and those, of course, in the country. So that, Madam Speaker, they need to understand that exams are not a matter of life and death. For example, Madam Speaker, there are people who are trying to help kids to cheat in exam. I mean, those kind of human beings, those kind of people who want to even make our kids become thieves so early. I think those are the people we should condemn. They are the ones who are giving the impression that exams, if you don't pass them the way you're supposed to pass them, that you can actually have a shortcut to an exam, to passing an exam. Those thoughts need to be removed, Madam Speaker. Let our kids work hard. Let our kids understand the subject matter as they go to exams. Let them have the confidence, Madam Speaker, that they have been trained and prepared to do the exams and that they can pass those exams. And so I do want to congratulate Senator and say, please continue to pursue the issue. It may help us in future to know what are the factors that are causing kids to miss the exams, what are the factors that are not enabling them to report to the examination centers and so on. So I do support. Thank you.
Senator Ali Abdullahi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to congratulate my Vice Chair, Senator Musurube, for a job well done. When you look at this statement, the job which was supposed to be done by the Ministry of Education is what she's doing. She has researched to the level that she knows how many students were missing from Embu, from Mandera, from Kapedo in West Pokot, and many other parts of this country. This is a very serious issue, Madam Speaker. And I think the ministry should be ashamed and should come out very strongly to tell us what really happened in these areas. And the issue of telling us that some of the, students disappeared because their houses were raised down to the ground, others because they missed school fees, others because of other issues. There are chiefs in every location. And the chiefs should be aware of what's happening to these students, especially in the primary schools, because this is where students start their life, Madam Speaker. In cases, where there are clashes, at least if the people have a problem, then they should be taken to another location or other sub-location, another school, where they should be able to do these exams. So the provincial administration and the Ministry of Education, if they work together, many of these issues could be resolved. So, Madam Speaker, I hope the committee will look into these issues very seriously and come up with answers which are more, which will give us more insight and more issue, give us the background, more than what Senator Musurube did. If they cannot do as much as they have done, then I don't know why they should be in those posh offices, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Senator Musurube. Job well done.
Senator Musurube, you can proceed with the next statement.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation regarding the danger posed by the lack of important road signage on most Kenyan roads, such as the Webuye-Kakamega Road. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state reasons for lack of important or salient road signs, such as marked bumps and rumble strips along most Kenyan roads, particularly Ngong Road and the Webuye-Kakamega Road. 2, outline reasons for lack of pedestrian walkways and pedestrian crossing points on these roads that has led to numerous road traffic accidents and loss of lives. And 3, state measures, if any, that the relevant ministry and road agencies have put in place to ensure the safety of all road users on these roads. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Ali Abdullahi.
Madam Speaker, this is also a very serious issue. Roads in this country nowadays lack signs. You can see in some roads where you have a lot of zigzags and roads are not straight. I don't know how Kenyan roads, especially when you leave the major cities, are done. You will see that a road which has just been, tarmac, or new roads which have been constructed follow very funny, as if they are following a cattle path or camel paths. You go in a very funny way when you travel to the right, then come back to the left, then you travel to the right, instead of making a straight path when they are doing these things. I don't know what's wrong with the engineers in this country. Not only that, most of the roads which have just been tarmacked in many areas of this country, the signs disappear very fast. Instead of harassing matatu operators and other road users, the police should look into these issues and deal with these people who vandalize some of these road signs. Some of the contractors even do not do the job they're supposed to do. And I don't know what's wrong with the ministry or the rural, whatever, the Kenya Roads Board or the rural and the urban and the highways, all of their officers all over the country. But you don't see anybody arrested for vandalizing of the signs of these roads. And it is very dangerous, Madam Speaker. You see, you are rushing, you are driving very fast, and then all of a sudden you realize that you are supposed to go into a corner, and there's no sign anywhere. In certain areas, in some centers, you see too many bumps. In certain areas where the wildlife or other, nomadic areas where there are animals, you don't see any bumps. So these are issues which should be looked at, and I think the committee should also look into these issues. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senate Majority Leader, Senator Pogisho.
Madam Speaker, this is a very important statement, and I hope that the committee that is going to be responding, Madam Speaker, will take this matter very seriously, and so I want to thank and congratulate again colleague Senator Musuruve for being attentive to this particular issue. Madam Speaker, this is a whole range of issues with our roads and our signage that should help us, guide us to reach places. And sometimes you look for a place that you want to go to and you can't find it. Sometimes, Madam Speaker, a new road bump is created and you didn't know about it and it's not labeled. Sometimes just knowing who has a right of way is not clear. And so there are many black spots that are created because of lack of signage. Of course, we've heard that there are people who vandalize signages, who vandalize bridges, who vandalize infrastructure. And already I think that those kind of people who are dealing with scrap metals and so on have already been communicated to, and I hope that there will be order in that sector. But, Madam Speaker, I think it's important that we take a cue from other countries. You've traveled this world, and you find that signages are so important. Big signage. Signage should be able to be seen from far. If you are traveling, you're looking for a place. Madam Speaker, I see a few of those in our country today, but it's not enough. And so this kind of statement must be urgent, but also be given due attention so that those charged with the responsibility of the signages and clearly marking our roads take this very seriously. And so I want to congratulate her. Keep doing what you do well, and I support. Thank you.
Senator Mwinyi Faki.
Madam Speaker.
Proceed.
Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipa fursa hii kuleta hoja ya nidhamu. Mheshimiwa Speaker, awali mwaka jana tulileta taarifa hapa kuhusiana na kutolipwa mishahara kwa wafanyakazi wa shirika la Postal Corporation of Kenya. Mheshimiwa Speaker, taarifa hiyo ilipelekwa kwa kamati ya ICT, teknolojia na mawasiliano, na baadaye wakaleta taarifa hapa kusema kwamba mishahara imeweza kulipwa. Lakini Mheshimiwa Speaker, jambo hili limekuwa larudiwa kila mara. Ninavyozungumza hapa leo Mheshimiwa Speaker, miezi mitatu imepita sasa, wafanyakazi wote Kenya nzima wa shirika la Postal Corporation of Kenya hawajalipwa mishahara. Mheshimiwa, ni jambo la aibu, ni jambo la kusikitisha kwamba shirika kama hili ambalo ni shirika ambalo lilikuwa lina nguvu na uwezo wakati wa nyuma, limekuwa sasa linawadhalilisha wafanyakazi wake na kuwatesa ambao hawawezi kumudu maisha ya sasa. Mheshimiwa Speaker, kwa Mheshimiwa Speaker, ningeomba kwamba kamati hii ilirudie swala hili, ama kama imekuwa ni shida kwa kamati ya mawasiliano, swala hili lipelekwa kwa kamati ya leba Mheshimiwa Speaker, ili waliingilie kwa makini zaidi, kwa sababu kamati ya leba Mheshimiwa Speaker ina uzoefu wa mambo ya mishahara na mambo ya haki za wafanyakazi. Mheshimiwa Speaker, ilikuwa ni wakati wa corona, walisema kuwa hawakuweza kufanya kazi vizuri, lakini corona Mheshimiwa Speaker imeendelea kupungua, na mpaka sasa nafikiri hata haizungumzii, watu wanazungumzia masuala ya Russia na Ukraine. Kwa Mheshimiwa Speaker, hili swala lazima
Oda Senator Mwinyi, labda utueleze ni nini kilichokuwa nje ya sheria zetu za bunge, sababu umeinuka kwa hoja la nidhamu.
Ni swala ambalo Mheshimiwa Speaker ni la kitaifa, kwa sababu wafanyakazi miezi mitatu hawajalipwa, na ni shirika la kitaifa Mheshimiwa Speaker, shirika la serikali, si shirika la mtu binafsi. Kwa hivyo ni serikali lazima ijue. Kama haijui kwamba wafanyakazi hawajalipwa, watueleze kwa nini hawajalipwa Mheshimiwa Speaker. Asante Bi Speaker.
Kwa sababu ulieleza kwamba kuna kamati ambaye kamati ya teknolojia ilikuwa inaangazia mambo haya, nitaamrisha mwenyekiti wa kamati hiyo atupe ushauri kwamba amefika wapi kwa kuchunguza mambo hayo ya kutolipa mishahara. Honorable Senators, for the convenience of the business of the Senate this afternoon, we are going to rearrange the order paper so that we start with order number 16 on the division of revenue.
Order number 16, the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bills number 8 of 2022, second reading.
Senate Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, you may have to find out why the House has moved to a corner. We have.
Order, Senators.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bills number 8 of 2022 be now read as second time. Madam Speaker, as a way of explaining the journey of this bill, the bill was published on the 25th of February 2022, passed by the National Assembly on the 3rd of March 2022, and thereafter referred to the Senate the same day. The bill seeks to provide for the equitable division of revenue raised nationally between the national and the county levels of governments for the financial year 2022/2023, and connected purposes in accordance with Article 203(2) of our Constitution. Madam Speaker, in compliance with the Article 218(2) of the Constitution of Kenya, as read together with the Public Finance Management Act 2012, Standing Order 181-1 provides for the Division of Revenue Bill to be presented at least 2 months before the end of the financial year. Further, pursuant to a Standing Order 181-3, the Senate is required to consider the bill not later than 14 days after the bill is introduced. I therefore cannot overemphasize the importance of this bill, and that we consider it and pass it expeditiously. Madam Speaker, the Division of Revenue proposes in the bill, the Division of Revenue proposed in this bill is based on the third basis for allocation of the share of national revenue among county governments in light of Article 217 of the Constitution. The financial year 2022 and 23 budget has been formulated at a time of COVID-19 pandemic, when there is still uncertainty of meeting resource mobilization targets due to economic impact of the pandemic. Hence, the bill envisages that is imperative not to increase the county equitable share amidst economic uncertainty. Additionally, the bill has taken into account concerns regarding national debts by proposing government spending ceilings for both levels of government in order to lower fiscal deficits and slow down debt accumulation. Madam Speaker, the bill also addresses national concerns such as the public debt and other obligations, as well as the needs of the disadvantaged groups and areas in line with Article 203(1) of our Constitution. Madam Speaker, specifically, and as a way of concluding, specifically, Madam Speaker, this is a summary. The total shareable revenue of the 2022 and 2023 financial year is estimated at 2 trillion shillings. Out of this, the national government has proposed a revenue allocation of 1.7 trillion and county equitable share of 370 billion, and the equalization fund of 7.068 billion. 2, the bill proposes an additional 5.6 billion Kenya shillings to be financed from national government share of revenue to the county government, comprising of 5.2 billion for leasing of medical equipment and 454 million to supplement construction of county headquarters. 3, the bill also proposes an upward revision of consolidated fund services for the year 2022 and 23 budget to Kenya shillings 46.9 billion in order to retain a deficit at the 2021 BPS level, while the national government ceiling has already been revised downwards by 15 billion, while maintaining the county equitable share at the same level. Madam Speaker, I wish to state that the Division of Revenue Bill 2022 is a very important bill. It is, Madam Speaker, time-bound, Madam Speaker, and of course contributes immensely to the achievement of our national policy objectives through the share of national revenue among our county governments. Madam Speaker, this is the whole purpose of devolution being at the center of governance in this country, and therefore I will urge all members, all senators, to pass this expeditiously and to support it. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to move and ask Senator Orengo, Senate Minority Leader, to second. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senate Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to second this bill, and has already been set out clearly in the speech by the Leader of the Majority. This is a very important bill that is predicated on Article 218 of the Constitution. But more importantly, whenever this bill comes for consideration in the Senate, it is the bill that all senators should scrutinize and to scrutinize and ensure that the counties are getting their fair share, equitable share from revenue collected by the government in any financial year. And that is for the purposes of meeting one of the most important obligations of the Constitution in regard to the principles and objectives of devolution. And in my estimation, and in my considered opinion, one of the most important features of our Constitution that departed from the old Constitution, apart from the Bill of Rights and the Code on Leadership and Integrity, the chapter dealing with the devolution is the single, probably most important innovation in our Constitution. And devolution would not mean much or may not be consequential if the counties were not to get their fair share of revenue as stipulated by the Constitution. And although on the face of it, this bill seems to abide by the constitutional requirements, but in my view, we, as counties, the counties are still not getting quite what they deserve because of partly the constitutional arrangement that makes it possible for national government to remit less to counties on the basis of the audited accounts, the last audited accounts as required under the Constitution, or simply on the basis of other national considerations that take precedence over the shareable revenue. And one of them, Madam Speaker, is the issue of debt. So long as the government, the national government has got a huge debt portfolio, the counties will not get their fair share in terms of the resources which are collected by the national government. And as we move on, and we know government does not get into debt for no good reason. The government gets into debt because there is need, if there are financial shortfalls, or if there are major capital works or needs that require financial allocations. But if the debt burden is huge, it means that there's less money to go around to the counties. And therefore, as we move forward, I still would urge very strongly that the government should continue to look at the debt portfolio and to ensure that we don't fall into debt and therefore into competition with revenue that is available cheaply to entrepreneurs and Kenyans generally. That government competes with money available in the financial markets with ordinary business people and Kenyans, to the extent that banks would choose to lend their money to the national government is opposed to making affordable financial financial allocations, as it were, or financial, meeting the financial requirements of the ordinary businessmen and citizens. So that's one point, that debt continues to be a major problem that we have. Indeed, I remember President Kibaki used to repeat time and again that the government does well when it doesn't borrow. When the government borrows too much, then it means that the person who bears the burden is a taxpayer. But at the same time, I also want to appreciate that the country cannot also be at a standstill. There are infrastructure developments that is happening in the country at the moment that has to be done at some point in time. For Nairobi to be a hub, just being a hub like Dubai, just being a hub like Ankara in Turkey is becoming, or going to the east, Singapore and a lot of these nations that are so-called the tigers, they're becoming a hub in the communication world, the transport systems that go across borders. So for Kenya to be part of that hub, there are major developments that the country must undertake in competition with other nations that are around us. And Rwanda, a small nation, may overtake us. And I think by some miracle, because of the problems in Ethiopia, we have a great opportunity, if at all that commitment in making Nairobi a hub continues. And that can only happen if our communications, our transport sector, our banking, our services meet the world standards. And I think there's something good happening in that direction. Infrastructure, one doesn't want to live in a country that when you get into and you want to do business and you want to get the next plane out, you're stuck in traffic for 4 or 5 hours. And what is happening along the Mombasa Road in terms of the expressway is a major development. And countries that have undertaken such major developments have to look for money somewhere in order to fund such significant projects. And I think the issue of infrastructure started with the Grand Coalition government and has continued to be a theme since then. And if there's anything that Jubilee can take home, it is the area of infrastructure, where they've done extremely well, but at great expense. We have to pay for it. And I dare say that some of it is happening more efficiently in the last 4 years than in the first 5 years. And the reason why this is happening is not a laughing matter, it's an issue that demonstrates that when a government is functioning. I said here one time ago, Madam Speaker, in the last Senate, that there was dysfunction within the Jubilee government, and people are not taking that seriously. Lots of friends who are sitting across there were not taking those words that you could see that the dysfunction of government was making it impossible for the government to undertake major economic activities in all sectors. And yet you can find in the last 3 years what has happened in this country in the last 3 years. And I'm not saying that we don't have any problems, like prices of essential commodities are going up. That needs to be looked at. We can't run away from that because people must have food, they must have shelter. But overall, if you look at what has happened in the last 3 years, without a doubt, has made it possible for this government to make some kind of achievements in a climate, an environment of peace. And I hope that what the government has incurred, debts and others in making it possible for us to have appropriate infrastructure will pay back. For example, Madam Speaker, one of the projects that which is underway is to make sure that from Nairobi up to Nakuru and beyond, you have a dual carriageway. I hope that that goes on up to Kisumu and up to Malaba. Even my friend from Nandi will find it easier, to go to Nandi if you got a highway, a dual carriageway between Nairobi, Nakuru, Eldoret up to Malaba. And these things don't just happen. They require planning, and happily we can say without fear of contradiction that some of the things that are happening during the Jubilee government, the good ones, some of them were planned during the Grand Coalition government. But they wasted 5 years, thinking about 2022. And 2022 has come, and we can see the panic that is driving some people crazy. Now, so, Madam Speaker, what am I trying to say? If you look at the allocation of resources that are going to the counties, in terms of the constitutional requirement, it is commendable because it is 26.17% of the revenue raised nationally. But this 26% is of the last audited account, which is the 2017-2018. What about if they were 2018-2019, or 2019-2020, or 2021-2022? Without even talking about the amount that is going to the counties, 370 billion. In my estimation, the counties actually would be getting close to 600 billion. Just imagine a good percentage of that 600 billion going to West Pokot. You can provide a lot of essential services, particularly when in the budgeting process, procurement process. There are statutory requirements under the Public Finance and Management Act, and what monies can be used for development and recurrent expenditure. So I can imagine that if we had doubled this amount, if the last audited accounts was the accounts of 2021-2022, the counties would be in a stable financial situation if governors also manage those funds properly. And this, we must take some of the blame also, because the looking into public accounts requires Parliament to play a role, particularly the National Assembly. And we need to put more pressure to ensure that we either go by the current or the last accounts of the last financial year, or if it is to be the last audited accounts, then the Auditor General, his office, Auditor General, and the relevant parliamentary committees must make sure that Parliament does not delay the auditing of these accounts, public accounts, for more than 2 financial years. Because here, as you can see quite clearly, there's been a delay in auditing the accounts of the last 4 financial years, which then puts the counties at a disadvantage. Instead of getting more money, they're getting less. But having said that, if the counties are getting less, then it means the national government has gotten more. And with that extra resources they have, if used prudently, or if the government on its own volition made a choice of making a lot of these funds available to the counties, we would have strong devolved economies, not just governance units, but devolve economies in terms of counties. Now, having talked about the issue of public debt and the disadvantages of delaying auditing of public accounts, the other thing that, Madam Speaker, I would want to say something small about is the judiciary. I think the judiciary, love or hate it, they need resources because they play a very critical role. And a lot of cases that go to court are disputes between citizens. And some of them are disputes, commercial disputes, as opposed to issues relating to administration or constitutional rights or even the public law sector like criminal law. But in order to make an economy function properly, you need a dispute resolution system that works efficiently. And without the judiciary getting sufficient funds, and you can see what they are getting as a percentage of money that is available to the national government, is not good enough. Because we want courts, a system of courts that is devolved to this, not only to the sub-counties, but even to smaller units so that dispute resolution processes and mechanisms are also adequately devolved. Which then brings me to the point, Madam Speaker, that looking to the future, and the future is with us. The future is with us in 4 months, and we have a team that is committed in taking more funds to the counties, and saying that they will avail more than 35% of the revenue collected nationally. The revenue raised, 35% of it will go to the counties. So for this reason alone, I do not know why any senator sitting here would not want to be associated with Azimio. Because this is the big point about Azimio. And the big point about this constitution and why we are here as senators is to make sure that counties not only work, but they get sufficient resources. And if my senator from Marsabit, whom I know, is strongly in Azimio, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Senator Cherge.
Madam Speaker, is it in order for the great senator, Senator James Orengo, on a point of relevance, is introducing strange things on the floor of the House, because we are not discussing party manifesto on the floor of the House? Because if we are doing that, then you will have to give us of Kenya Kwanza to also share our manifesto. I think the point of, on the issue of relevance to the issues that we are discussing, a very important matter that does not involve Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. I think this is about devolution. I know he might want to get a ticket of ODM in Siaya County, but I don't think this is the right route or the right platform to do that.
Senator Orengo.
You know, Senator Cherge is fond of getting some time when I'm speaking. And when he goes back home, he goes to Nandi and Kapsabet, telling people, did you hear how I was arguing with Orengo? And that gets him some points. I'm ready to live with that. But you know, simply what I'm saying, it is in this document that you are looking at. You have a copy of this bill, and it is saying what you are going to get in this financial year that is going to the counties is 26.17%. 26.17%, and out there's a proposition that this figure should not be 26.17%. They are talking about 35%. I know on the question of relevance, I will not be talking about bottoms up. I'm talking about real issues that we can manage. As a Senate, we can make a decision for purposes of ensuring that that constitutional objective is met. And Madam Speaker, I'm making this point with all the seriousness it deserves. But overall, on the question as to whether this bill meets the constitutional requirement, yes, it does, because the minimum percentage that it should go to the counties is 15%. So it is allocating more than 10% of the minimum required under the Constitution. And the case that I'm making, it could have been better. Therefore, I commend the bill to the House, and this is the last such bill before this Senate. Some of us will be here, some of us will not be here, but I know the decision that you make on the 9th of August this year will have an impact on the percentage that you're going to get in the next financial year, and hopefully Senator Pogisio will still be here. I hope he'll be here to move it again. I may not be here to second again, but I commend the bill, and Madam Speaker, I beg to support.
Honorable Senator, I now propose the question, which is that the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bills number 8 of 2022 be read a second time. Senator Cherargei Samson.
I don't know whether it has been sanitized, but it's okay. Because majority leader was using it. But I can see it's still following the government protocol.
It was sanitized.
Okay.
You can do it again.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support this Division of Revenue Bill 2022. I think this is a direct issue. It's part of, as provided for under Article 218 of the Constitution of Kenya, and it is our role. I think ours is to ensure that we expeditiously process this bill and ensure that we move very fast. Madam Speaker, I have seen in total shareable revenue, it is 2.1 trillion, and the national government gets 1.7 trillion. Well, of course, equalization fund gets 7 billion. County share, equitable share is around 370 billion. Madam Speaker, I cannot be bamboozled by the percentages, because you know national government is getting 2.1 trillion, and there was an admission by the President, Madam Speaker, that we lose 2 billion daily. So I would have expected that at least the county governments, the minimum they should get is around 500 billion, so that we can do meaningful development in our counties. Because in as much as we fought for the third generation formula, and we had protracted until all counties had an opportunity of getting additional, Nandi got an additional of 1.6 billion that has through equitable shareable revenue. But it is sad that as the national budget increase, as it goes up, Madam Speaker, it is approaching more than 2.1 trillion. Yet counties are still stuck to 370 billion, Madam Speaker. I know there is the issue of county grants bill, which is at a mediation level between both houses, that will allow development partners to give more funds, Madam Speaker, to counties. But this 370 billion, in as much as to some people the percentage looks very nice on the paper, but I believe the numbers are more critical. So in future, Madam Speaker, I think this is not enough for our counties. 370 billion is not enough, Madam Speaker. We need a minimum of 500 billion. And I think the challenge should be on how to fast-track latest audited accounts so that counties can get what they deserve, Madam Speaker. And in fact, most of these functions that have been devolved are more critical, and the things that touch Mwananchi directly, Madam Speaker. When you talk about that feeder road somewhere in Kajiado, it's so personal to that person that is using before you go to the main tarmac road. It is so personal before you come to Expressway here in Nairobi. When you talk about that dispensary lacking medicine somewhere in Mombo dispensary, somewhere in Tindra sub-county, it is very critical, Madam Speaker. When you talk about a child in Chepterwai missing school because of not getting county bursary, Madam Speaker, it's so critical. So we should be investing more. And that is what we talked about bottom-up, Madam Speaker, where we need to build more on the lowest level as opposed as the highest level where we propose trickle down, Madam Speaker. So I think the allocation, in fact, the future governments, and this is the assurance, Madam Speaker, that some of us in our formation believe that we should allocate more resources to counties so that when you talk about health, you need that universal health coverage at that lowest level. When you talk about access to NHIF, when you talk about access to good roads, at the feeder roads that are developed at the village level, when you talk about dispensaries, when you talk about county bursaries, when you talk about access to water has continued to become a challenge, Madam Speaker. Many people are sick in our villages where we come from. Madam Speaker, I was over, because of this period that all of us is active, I was in Aldai sub-county, somewhere in Terik Ward and Kemalai Maraba Ward. Their contention, Madam Speaker, even somewhere in Bemja, is about access to water. And you know, water should be something that is basic. So if we do not increase funds, Madam Speaker, to our counties, that access to water in Kajiado County, where you come from, will continue to be a problem. So we must increase funds. I don't know why we would want a national government that has more funds than our counties, Madam Speaker. I think the biggest challenge that we face as a country are twofold or threefold. One is the public debt. And I've seen they have tried to reduce to around 930 billion, looking at the revenue that have gone down because of pandemic, but thank God I think we are coming out. I think we need to check the public debt. The more the public debt continue to increase, Madam Speaker, where we are more than 6-7 trillion, and I think it continues to affect the sharing of revenue. Because the priority number one, the standing charge, that will always be there, Madam Speaker, will always be about the public debt. And therefore, when you talk about the public debt that we are having, Madam Speaker, it continues to eat into the revenue. And you know, revenue is not doing very well. My only concern is how to ensure we harmonize county-owned source revenues. Because you find counties have a problem with own source revenue, Madam Speaker. They need to tighten the issue of their own cess, rate, rent, rates. You find some counties, Madam Speaker, who used to have municipal houses like Mombasa. The rent that they are still charging is still low. When you go to counties that have municipalities like Eldoret, you find somebody is still living in a house of 1,500. I'm not saying that it should be increased, but the county should be more innovative to increase their own portfolio on own source revenue, Madam Speaker. So public debt continue to be a threat to the success of devolution, because the argument is that this is something that we must pay. Madam Speaker, another factor that continues to affect us is the issue of corruption and abuse of resources. Madam Speaker, I think one of the biggest single cancerous threat to the success of devolution continues to be corruption. And I think the more larceny and graft continue to bedevil our devolved units, Madam Speaker, it continues to be a threat. And therefore, I think the county assemblies and even the Senate should tighten the oversight role by ensuring that the governors do not in any way infiltrate into the corruption that we are facing. For example, a few years ago, Madam Speaker, there was a mega scandal in county of Nandi, where ECD cement was lost, ECD around 200 million was lost, tires and many other things were lost, and somebody, around 18 county government officers are in court over allegations of corruption. I have seen a number of it has been reported in some of the dailies today, that the number of governors are under active investigation of corruption, Madam Speaker. So the more this continues to be a threat, Madam Speaker, we are aware, and we are aware that all these governors, Madam Speaker, wherever they are in the formations they continue to be a threat to corruption, Madam Speaker. And that incompetency continues to affect service delivery. I know we might fight for more allocation, and that is why, Madam Speaker, it is important even going to the future. And as the fourth Senate is inaugurated in the next 6 months, we must agree as a Senate and the future of the Senate that we must have a county oversight mechanisms, Madam Speaker. Because how do senators do county oversight? We need to ensure, although we get audit reports, we need to do also what we call forensic audit and social audit, Madam Speaker, where the senator goes and visits a cattle dip somewhere in Cheptonon, somewhere in Tindred sub-county. They visit even somewhere a dispensary in Cheptonon dispensary, Madam Speaker, or somewhere in Kaptumek dispensary, Madam Speaker, where are the mechanisms that ensures that his house does not only push for resources, Madam Speaker, but can we able to ensure that those money that we are pushing to be added to Kilifi County, for example, where my brother Senator Stewart Manzayo comes from, is accounted for? Is there ECD? Was it used the correct? Because I'm ECD, Madam Speaker, for example, in Nandi, they are calling it ECC centers. They are using up to 2 million. But when you look at the ECD that are done by education, they are doing at 800,000, Madam Speaker. So how do we ensure in Kilifi, for example, or in Mombasa County, that money is, and that is why the next Senate, Madam Speaker, we must agree on tools of county oversight mechanisms. Do we need to create a county Senate audit team at the level of each county senator? Do we need to create a social audit where senator is given an auditor, is given a project manager to check the project status of the county and visit those areas, Madam Speaker? I think these are hard questions, so that Wananchi will tell you when you are campaigning this season, they will tell you, yes, thank you, Senator, for pushing for more resources, but we didn't see the money. And they ask you, what did you do about it without seeing, Madam Speaker? I think that's also the same challenge you are also facing in Kajiado. Because they will say, yes, senators, you are doing a good job, you have added resources, but when you come, they will tell you there is no road, there is no water. I saw even in your county, a bridge collapsed. It means there was a poor work done, Madam Speaker. I know Governor and you are on the same page in terms of national political formation, but Madam Speaker, the bridge collapsed barely after being launched. So how do we put in place mechanisms that ensures that there is value for money? How do we put in place the social audit mechanisms? How do we use community mobilizers or community committees? In future, Madam Speaker, even in the future of the Senate, we must agree that we come up with community committee oversight team, where the senators will ensure that in every village, just the way governors have village administrators, we have the level of committees of community that assist in the oversight of the funds that we develop. So the issue of corruption continues to be a threat in terms of the success. And Madam Speaker, in the interest of time and to allow my colleagues to contribute, another threat that continues to be developed, and I can see no one wants to discuss about this in either formation, Madam Speaker, is the issue of clawback. Look, for example, the Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health has ensured that any donation and any grants and conditional grants that go to the counties, they must somewhere sanction, Madam Speaker. I have seen even, and I'm shocked because it is this same house, in the report of this house, Madam Speaker, we were on record saying that medical leasing equipment was a public rip-off. It is a report that was presented before this house by Senator Dulo's led committee. They said at that time, the issue of medical equipment supplies and leasing to counties was a public rip-off, was a money rip-off by the counties. But I can see they have added 7 billion, again, Madam Speaker, in this proposal. So I don't know as a Senate what we can do, and I know we might end up going, Madam Speaker, we might end up going, Madam Speaker, to the mediation. Because I don't think we can go against our word as a Senate. We agreed here that this was a public rip-off, Madam Speaker. But again, we want now to pass another, I think, 7 billion that goes with the medical equipment supplies, Madam Speaker, medical equipment leasing that we have. And counties have complained that some of these things that we are leasing, like gloves, like the reagents and many of these things, beds, ICU beds, oxygen plants, these are things that can be purchased one-off by counties. That did even diagnostic machines, even things that are being used, like the ones that you use, Madam Speaker, even for kidney, the dialysis machines. These are things that the county governments should be allowed to buy. They don't need to lease, Madam Speaker. So the additional of putting money to medical leasing again, allocating 7 billion, continues to be a threat and continues to abet the corruption. And Madam Speaker, we must relook at this issue of medical equipment supplies, because counties almost 10 years down the line, Madam Speaker, are yet to realize. And when you go to these hospitals that have received this medical equipment leasing, they're in pathetic stage. I saw a story one day, I think, of Kajiado County Referral Hospital. in one of the media houses, it is in pathetic state. Same to Kapsabet County Referral Hospital, it is in pathetic state. Even people buy Panadol. Even people buy gloves. The doctors cannot do anything because of COVID and many others. You need to go and buy gloves in Kapsabet town, bring it to Kapsabet County Referral Hospital so that the doctor can serve you. So, Madam Speaker, I think when you talk about county leasing equipment, Madam Speaker, I disagree that it should not be added here. And I hope when it goes to mediation, Madam Speaker, it should be important, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wanted to, my fourth point, because only I have 5 points. There was the issue of subsidy. I have seen in the item that we have, Madam Speaker, is the fertilizer subsidy. I don't know, they have indicated that national irrigation and fertilizer clearance. I don't know whether it means. Madam Speaker, for us, and even in Narok, Madam Speaker, we are on planting season. It is sad, Madam Speaker, that a bag of fertilizer costs for 50 billion. Not 50 billion, sorry, for 7,000 Kenya shillings. A bag of fertilizer, Madam Speaker, that was DAP the other day was 2,500, is now retailing at 7,000. Madam Speaker, our farmers in Nandi, in Wazingishu, in Elgeyo Marakwet, in Narok, and many other parts, including Kilifi, have to buy at 7,000 Kenya shillings, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's very expensive, and I want to warn the country that if our farmers in North Rift, in Nandi, do not farm, they will be anchor, and I can see, I'm told 3.5 million Kenyans as today are facing crisis of hunger, of going without food, Madam Speaker. And I want to say, if there will be no food in this country, Kenyans will go hungry, and it will be a threat to the national security, Madam Speaker. I think the issue of national fertilizer subsidy program must be reinstated as soon as possible, so that we buy that fertilizer at 2,500 as opposed to 7,000, Madam Speaker. And you know, unfortunately, Senator Orengo has left early. I heard him talking about that under the handshake, Madam Speaker, under the government, that when the handshake came in place, he was trying to allude to the fact that things have become better. For me, things have become worse, Madam Speaker. How can you explain to Kenyans, my farmers, that under the handshake of Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, we are buying a 50-kilo DAP bag at 7,000? But during the first term of Jubilee, we were buying at 2,500. How do you explain? The cost of living has gone up. And you can't tell us because of, I had a very lame excuse, Madam Speaker, and I laughed myself because it was funny, that you know the reason we have fuel going up and the cost of living is because there is fight in Ukraine and Russia. And these are the same people, Madam Speaker, who are telling us if we take government, we'll bring the cost of living down. And yet they are now in government.
Senator
Why
Ledama,
don't they
order, Senator Cherargei. There is an intervention by Senator Ledama.
A point of order, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, is a distinguished senator from Nandi in order to mislead the world, not only Kenya, that the price of fuel is not going up because of the war in Ukraine. It is going up because of a handshake. Madam Speaker, the distinguished senator should be able to substantiate his claim, because the last I checked, Kenya does not produce enough oil to be refined in this country and to be sold locally. So I know it's a political season. I know it's mwenye nguvu nipishe or propagandist nipishe. But Madam Speaker, as a distinguished senator, we should remain relevant. We're discussing the issue of division of revenue to our counties. Let us be clear. So I would like to request you, Madam Speaker, for the distinguished senator to substantiate his claim that the war in Ukraine or Russia, where the entire world is facing all these problems we are facing, that is not the one which is causing the cost of products. Madam Speaker, finally, even the cost of wheat, where we import a lot of wheat from Ukraine and Russia, is going to go up. That's not because of the handshake. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Cherargei.
Madam Speaker, I wish Senator Ledama was here early enough, because the majority leader made serious comments on the floor of the House about the performance, Madam Speaker. But I know he was listening, but he just wants to play to the gallery, because we were being told the other day, Madam Speaker, the cost of fertilizer. I am a farmer. I represent farmers, because majority of my voters are farmers, just like in Narok where he comes from. And this is a fact, that it is under the handshake government, the fertilizer has gone to 7,000 shillings. And they are promising us, Madam Speaker, that if they take government, and they are already in government, why don't they?
Order, Senator Cherargei. Point of order by Senator Madzayo.
Speaker, Senator wa Nandi, ndugu yangu Cherargei, ni mtu ambaye yuko karibu sana na mimi. Lakini naona anaposema kwamba bidhaa zile za fertilizer zimeenda juu wakati wa handshake. Nataka kumueleza ya kwamba handshake ilikuja baadaye. Hata mtu akitaka pengine kupata mtoto, mama akishikwa mimba, inachukua miezi 9 ndio azae. Kwa hiyo sisi tukiingia wakati wa handshake, ile mimba ya Oloba ilikuwa iko tayari. Asiseme saa hizi. Sisi tumekuja tukaipata juu tu. Kwa hiyo asiseme kwamba fertilizer imeenda juu baada ya kwamba watu wamefanya handshake. Fertilizer bei yake ilikuwa iko juu wakati ule wakiwa wao wakiharibu serikali wakati wa miaka minne ya kwanza. Asante, Speaker.
Senator Cherargei, please conclude.
So, Madam Speaker, so anasema, Madam Speaker kwa Kiswahili anasema ya kwamba hawakuwa ametunga mimba wenyewe, walipata kama mimba iko ndani. Nafikiri Madam Speaker,
you're out of order, Senator Cherargei. You can't shift from English to Kiswahili.
Okay, so my apologies.
You stick to the language that you started with.
Okay, my apologies. But what I'm saying in a nutshell, that the cost of living and everything, and I want Kenyans to know this, even as we talk, because I heard there is a proposal of increasing to 40%, as we are pushing for bottom-up where we invest more on that level, Madam Speaker. What I'm just saying in an upshot is that let us stop this playing to gallery. The cost of living, the cost of fertilizer have gone up, whether the deputy minority leader likes it or not, or the senator for Narok, they are in government. They should be able to intervene now. There will be no magic that they will do, and yet they have reins of government, as we talk, Madam Speaker. So I was just concluding on the issue of national irrigation and fertilizer clearance, that as a country, I want to appeal to the government that if our farmers do not go to farm, we don't produce, the country will be faced with hunger, and it will be the issue of national trouble to national security. Madam Speaker, finally, on the issue of equalization fund, I've seen they have allocated around 7 billion. I think this fund, we need to operationalize, Madam Speaker. Nandi, most sub-counties of Tindred and Nandi Hills, continues to be the biggest beneficiary of this equalization fund. And I think under Article 204, we know the aim, and that was my argument during the debate on third generation basis, that if we operationalize equalization fund, areas that have faced marginalization like northeastern counties and many other counties who have a problem. And at that point, Madam Speaker, if you look at the poverty index, poverty is much more in the western Kenya and in northern Kenya, Madam Speaker, according to statistics that were provided. So, Madam Speaker, we should ensure that we operationalize and ensure this 7 billion is being used, because it's more targeted to hospitals, to schools, as was envisaged under Article 204, Madam Speaker, and ensure. Madam Speaker, I think on this note, I want to thank colleagues. I know during the third generation formula, and we served with my colleague, Senator Stewart, the committee that you formed then to resolve the stalemate and impasse, and Senator Ledama, I think we did very well, because it is out of our consensus that brought this. And I can assure that Kenya Kwanza will ensure that this devolution works for the betterment of every one of us. I thank you.
Senator Inima Gertrude Musurube.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this bill, the Division of Revenue Bill, 2020 to 2023. And Honorable Speaker, when we look at this bill, it's coming out clearly to state that there's equitable division of revenue among the national and county government. And this is key for the purpose or sake of ensuring that there's service delivery to everyone in this country. And people live in the counties, and that is where, in the counties, that is where people really get service delivery, Honorable Speaker. Now, when we look at also the proposition of this bill, is that the national government is supposed to actually look for mechanisms of raising revenue. But if there's any shortfall, then the shortfall is not borne by the county governments. And this is a plus because it will ensure that the national government is really looking for ways and means of ensuring that there is money that will eventually go to the counties. Because when it comes to real service delivery to wananchi, it is actually in the amount of money that goes to the county governments. And Honorable Speaker, I want to commend this bill because when we look at the past years, the country has really been hit very hard with the impacts of COVID. And so even raising 370 to go to the counties, I think this is, it is no mean effort because with COVID, it is expected that there's no money and little money would be in circulation even to go to the counties. But 370 is well-meaning, and especially when you look at the parameters that have been put into consideration, the parameters in 203, Article 203, those parameters come in handily, like the issues of national interest. We have to look at the national interest when you look at issues of payment of schools or fees, when you look at education. And Honorable Speaker, when it comes to education, education is core. And no country can fail to invest a substantial amount of money in education. So when you look at Article 203 and even Article 203D, comes out clearly that the parameters of the functions of the county government needs to be factored in. And when you're looking at the functions of the county government, when you look at the fourth schedule of the Constitution, we see very clearly that the county government has quite a number of functions, about 14 functions. And that means that county governments must have, monies to ensure that they're able to function independently, to ensure that they're able to function as stipulated by the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. Because when we look at the functions of the county government, I'll just give one example of ECD. In most counties, Honorable Speaker, and as the Education Committee, I remember we've been going around the counties looking at the status of ECDs, and in some counties, the ECD status is really pathetic. So allocation of money to counties, and especially on education, and to ensure that, ECDs function, and also technical colleges function in the country, is very important, Honorable Speaker. Because in some counties, you find that ECDs are in pathetic situations. Some of them do not have abolition blocks. Some of them do not even have, water. And when it comes to water is important. Even when you look at Article 43 of the Constitution, it is very clear, Honorable Speaker, that clean water must be available to everyone. And when we are talking of clean water, Honorable Speaker, we are looking at ways in which water can reach everyone, Honorable Speaker. So with ample amount of money, county can look for ways of ensuring that they even harvest water. Very soon, Honorable Speaker, we are going to have a lot of rains. And during times when we have rains, a lot of rain is wasted because most counties do not prepare in advance how to make use of this natural resource that comes, in form of rain, so that it can be used later on, Honorable Speaker. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that it is in good breath for this money to go in equal measures, you know, from the national government to the county government equitably, so that county governments can do what they need to do. Honorable Speaker, I just want to also state that even counties themselves constitutionally, you know, have a leeway. They can look for their own ways of raising money, Honorable Speaker. And if they are able to raise their own money, then it will help in paying salaries, and the debt of the counties will go down, Honorable Speaker. I just want to comment also, Honorable Speaker, on a proposed development that I've just seen coming up in Kakamega County, Honorable Speaker, of low-costing housing, which I want to commend the county government of Kakamega, you know, under the leadership of His Excellency of Paranya, where the county government has allocated free land to the government so that they can build houses with investors. And then after building houses, Honorable Speaker, I want to propose that that will be a financial breakthrough also to Kakamega County, because they'll be able to get land rate and city rates from the housing estate, Honorable Speaker. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, it is just in well-meaning that county governments should really be strong enough financially by looking for ways of sourcing money, looking for ways of being independent, because if they're able to be independent, then it will be good even for Kenyans, because they'll not have to travel all the way to Nairobi or other cities looking for employment, Honorable Speaker. We have to look for ways of ensuring that people traveling to Nairobi or other cities, you know, looking for employment comes to a stop. And some of the ways that this can happen is if counties are able to look for ways and mechanisms of employing the youths, retaining them in the counties, Honorable Speaker. When you look at an analysis, Honorable Speaker, before us of division of revenue, the proposition and the projection is quite in order, Honorable Speaker, because when you look at the national interest, that is for Article 203(1)(a), in the financial year, last financial year it was at 83 plus, but in the financial year 2022 to 2023, it comes to 90, which is a plus. It means that the national interests have really been increased. And when you look at also the public debt in this analysis, in the year last year, it was 1.174, but now the public debt will reduce to 930 plus, which is also very good, which is also an improvement. When it comes to emergencies, it is stable. How it was last year and how it will be in 2022-2023, it is projected to just remain at the same time. And then when it comes to equalization funds, it goes up higher from 6,825 to 7,000 plus. So this means that when it comes to equalization funds, if it is used properly and the way it is supposed to be used, then it means that those areas that are underdeveloped will slightly improve with you know, some margin. And Honorable Speaker, when you look at the balance to be shared by the two levels of government. In last year, 2021 to 2022, it was negative 7,429. But right now, we see that the projection is of the balance is 547,843. So this is a big improvement that will not have a balance as a negative, meaning that even the surplus money can be used in other areas, like, for example, areas where there's underfunding. It can even go to affirmative action, or it can even go to areas that are really needy, Honorable Speaker. Now, when you look at also the balance left for the national government, last year it was negative 384,000. 966, but now it will not be negative, it will be positive 172,189, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, if this analysis is correct and it will be followed up to the latter, then it means that if it is not misappropriated, if the money is not misappropriated, then it means that there's going to be, an increase in productivity in the counties, and counties will be better placed, Honorable Speaker. That is, if the money is not misappropriated, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when we look at national interest, at the moment right now, farmers are really waiting for the rain so that they can actually plant. So if money is taken to the counties, it is expected that executives will ensure that farmers get fertilizer, and if farmers get a fertilizer, then it should be subsidized so that we can have productivity, Honorable Speaker. The issue of fertilizer also going up is going to really hit hard on the farmers, because when it comes to farmers, we must agree and also be alive to the fact that farmers have a big role to play, especially in economy. When you look at productivity, and they're self-employed, employment is very difficult to get in the country, but you find farmers on their own accord, going to till their land at their own cost as they wait for the rain. So it is just in good faith that the prices of fertilizer should actually go down. There should be subsidy for for farmers. We have to look excuse me, we have to look for ways and means of encouraging our farmers, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to support this bill, and I hope that my colleagues will also support the bill so that it sees light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia mswada wa ugawavi wa rasilimali kwa kaunti zetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza ningependa kupongeza mswada huu kwa sababu unaongeza kiasi fulani cha pesa kwa serikali hizo za kaunti. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama inavyojulikana, kaunti zetu zinaongeza huduma katika maeneo yao, na vile vile pia ile miradi wanayofanya inaanza kukamilika, na hivyo inahitajia pesa nyingi kuweza kuitekeleza kila mwaka. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, ongezeko la pesa ni jambo litaleta afueni sana kwa kaunti zetu, kwa sababu ya zile fedha zitasaidia pakubwa kurahisisha huduma katika kaunti hizi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna mambo matano ambayo ningependa kuyagusia katika swala hili. Jambo la kwanza, kuna pesa ambazo zimewekwa za medical equipment scheme. Tuliona hapo nyuma kamati yetu ya Senate iliyochunguza mradi huu ulipata kwamba kulikuwa na utepetevu mwingi sana katika kupeleka hivi vifaa katika kaunti zetu, na mpaka sasa kuna kaunti zingine, Mheshimiwa Spika, hazijaweza kutumia vifaa vile. Na vile vile uchunguzi niliofanya ni kuwa hii ongezeko la bilioni 7 ni kusaidia kuweza kufunga ile pengo ambalo liko, kwa sababu kandarasi nyingi zinaweza kukamilika mwaka huu. Kwa hivyo hakuna mipango yoyote ambayo ilikuwa imefanywa ya kuweza kuzifungua tena upya kandarasi zile ili ule mradi uweze kuendelea kufanyika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kaunti nyingi zimelipa pesa nyingi na hatima ya vifaa vile haijajulikana. Mheshimiwa Spika, hatujui kwa mfano watakuja wachukue vifaa vyao, kwa sababu ilikuwa ile ni kukodisha. Walikuwa wamekodisha kisheria, na kama umekodisha chombo chochote kisheria ni lazima baada ule muhula kuisha ukiregeshe kwa mwenyewe. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hatujui hatima ya vile vifaa ambavyo vilivyochukuliwa wakati ule. Je, vitarejeshwa kwa zile kaunti ama yule mwenye kuzikodisha atazichukua mwenyewe na aweze kuziuza sehemu zingine? Mheshimiwa Spika, pia kuna masuala ya vile vyombo ambavyo havikuweza kutumika. Kwa mfano, wakati tulipozunguka na kamati ya COVID, tulifika hospitali nyingine tukaona kwamba kuna vifaa ambavyo vitakana kutumika kama vile dialysis machine, lakini hospitali ilikuwa haina maji ya kutosha. Hospitali haina maji ya kuweza kutumika katika vifaa vile vya dialysis, ambavyo tunajua kwamba dialysis machine inakwenda na maji ambayo ni safi, yamesafishwa kikamilifu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna sehemu zingine kulikuwa kuna mashini za x-ray, lakini mashini zile hazikuweza kutumika kwa sababu hospitali ama zahanati ilikuwa haina umeme. Kwa hivyo ina maana kwamba county imelipia pesa kwa muda wa miaka 5, miaka 10, lakini vifaa vile havikuweza kutumika kabisa katika sehemu zile. Mheshimiwa Spika, zingine vilikuwa vinaharibika makosa madogo madogo, lakini kulikuwa hakuna utaalamu ama technicians ambao wataweza kusaidia kuvirekebisha kwa haraka ili wananchi waendelee kupata huduma. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo lingine ambalo linahusiana na vifaa hivi ni kuwa tuliona hapo nyuma kwamba baraza la magavana walikuwa wamepinga kuzunduliwa upya ama kuongezwa kwa kandarasi hii ya MES, na kwa hakika walikuwa na sababu zao. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, swala la hivi vifaa ni kwamba zile kaunti ambazo zinaangalia mbele, kwa mfano kaunti ya Mombasa, Mheshimiwa Spika, inaangalia mbele, imeweza kutumia vifaa vile na ikaweza kupata pesa nyingi, ambazo pesa zile zimefidia zile ambazo wanakatwa kulipia vile vifaa. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, zile kaunti ambazo zinaangalia mbele zimeweza kutumia vifaa hivi kamilifu na vikaweza kupata pesa nyingi, kwa sababu vifaa hivi vimetumika kuweza kusaidia kuleta huduma karibu na mwananchi na vile vile pia kupatikana katika huduma zile. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia kwa sasa huduma za x-ray kuna sehemu zingine hazipatikani kabisa. Kwa hivyo mgonjwa inabidi anakwenda hospitali akirudi wakati anasubiri huduma ile. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, zile kaunti ambazo zinaangalia mbele zimeweza kutumia vifaa hivi kwa vizuri sana, na hivi sasa wanaweza kupata pesa nyingi kutokana na matumizi ya vifaa vile. Lakini zile kaunti ambazo bado ziko katika fikra za nyuma, zote zimeweza kupata hasara Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu pesa zimekwenda lakini vifaa havikuweza kutumika kisawasawa katika kaunti zao. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, iwapo tutakubaliana kwamba hizi pesa ziwekwe katika bajeti katika hii sheria, ni kwamba lazima tuwe na uhakika kwamba pesa zile zitatumika vipi, na vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, kuwe na mikataba maalumu baina ya zile serikali za kaunti ili usiletewe vifaa ambavyo huhitaji, kwa sababu kaunti nyingine Mheshimiwa Spika zimepelekewa vifaa ambavyo havihitaji, na hii ina maana kwamba pesa zimeweza kutumika kwa njia ambayo si sawa. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo lingine ninataka kuligusia ni kuwa kaunti nyingi bado zinasubiri serikali kuu ilete fedha, na tumeona kwamba serikali kuu pia imebanwa katika matumizi yake, na utapata kwamba mara nyingi inachelewa kupeleka pesa katika kaunti, hivyo kunakuwa na misukosuko, wafanyaji kazi hawajui watapata mishahara yao lini, na vile vile pia huduma zinadorora katika kaunti zetu. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, njia ya kutatua swala hili ni kwamba kaunti zidhibiti njia zake za kuokota kodi katika maeneo yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, sehemu nyingi Mheshimiwa Spika, kodi bado zinakusanywa kizamani. Utapata afisa wa kaunti anazunguka barabarani na kitabu cha risiti akikusanya fedha za kaunti Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo hiyo imepita na wakati, kwa sababu wengi hawajulikani kama pesa zile wanaziregesha kisawasawa. Wengine wanachapisha vitabu vyao wakati wanazunguka kukusanya kodi, na hivyo basi mapato kamili ya kaunti zile hayajulikani. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni lazima kaunti zidhibiti kile tunaita mapato yake, kwa sababu hiyo ndiyo njia pekee yake itakayofanya wao wajiokoe kutokana na hili lindi la kuomba kila siku kwa serikali, kwa sababu hii imekuwa ni kuomba Mheshimiwa. Japokuwa sisi tunapopitisha sheria hii tunatoa na mwongozo pesa zitalipwa lini, lakini mara kwa mara utapata kwamba Wizara ya Fedha imechelewesha malipo kwa zile kaunti, na hivyo inasababisha huduma kudorora katika kaunti zile. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo la tatu ni swala la uangalizi wa kaunti hizi Mheshimiwa Spika. Kama alivyotangulia kusema Seneta Cherargei, Mheshimiwa Spika, maseneta hawana jukumu lolote baada ya kushapitisha sheria hii na pesa zikwenda katika kaunti, hawana jukumu lolote mpaka Auditor General, mhasibu mkuu, alete ripoti katika bunge hili kusema kwamba pesa hizi hazikutumika vizuri katika sehemu hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa sisi tunatoka katika kaunti zile, hatuna utaalamu wa kutosha Mheshimiwa Spika kuweza kuangalia tukasema katika ripoti zetu kwamba hii barabara imegharimu milioni 100 ama milioni 20 kutokana na vile ambavyo imeweza kujengwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala la pesa za evaluation and monitoring kwa waseneta ni swala muhimu kabisa, kwa sababu hiyo ndiyo itasaidia pakubwa kuweza kujua kwamba pesa zile zimetumika kikamilifu au la. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaona kwamba maseneta wengine wana kaunti kubwa ambazo huwezi kuzitembea wewe peke yako bila ya usaidizi wa fedha zaidi kutokana na hizi pesa ambazo tunazoitisha za evaluation and monitoring. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hili ni swala ambalo lazima, kama tutataka ugatuzi uweze kufauli, lazima iwe kuna nafasi ya seneta kupata fursa ya kwenda katika hii miradi, kuangalia na maafisa wale ambao wa kitaalamu kuweza kujua kwamba kweli fedha zinatumika kisawasawa katika mradi ule. Ama sivyo itakuwa tunasubiri ripoti za postmortem baada ya mambo yameshafanyika, ndio tunaletewa ripoti hapa miaka 4 5 baadaye kuja kuangalia pesa zilitumika kisawasawa au la. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii kuwa sisi tutatumika kama wale wanaofanya uchunguzi wa postmortem, yani mambo yameshafanyika miaka 4 5 ndio tunarudi kuitwa sisi kama maseneta kuyachunguza. Hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, haitasaidia ugatuzi, kwa sababu ugatuzi inatakana huduma ziweze kutolewa mwaka ule ule. Kama hazikutolewa tujue kwa nini hazikutolewa mwaka ule ule. Kusubiri miaka 3 4 baadaye, Mheshimiwa Spika, haisaidii ugatuzi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kumalizia ni kwamba tumeona kuwa ipo haja ya kuangalia tena zile huduma ambazo zinatolewa na kaunti zetu. Kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Spika, huduma za afya japokuwa ni muhimu na ziligatuliwa Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini kuna wengi wanaosema kuwa huduma hii inafaa iregee kwa serikali kuu, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, wananchi bado wanapata shida katika sehemu nyingi, migomo haimaliziki Mheshimiwa Spika, na utapata kwamba wanaohujumiwa zaidi ni wafanyakazi wa afya ambao wanahudumia wananchi moja kwa moja katika maeneo yao. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaona migomo kila mara. Kwa mfano kaunti ya Mombasa imekuwa na migomo mara kwa mara ya madaktari kwa sababu ya kucheleweshwa kulipwa mishahara na malumbukizi ya madeni pamoja na zile makato ya kisheria kama NHIF, NSSF na mengineo. Mheshimiwa Spika, hata kodi ya income tax inachelewesha kulipwa katika KRA, na hii inasababisha wengi kupata shida kuweza kupata mikopo ama kuweza kulipa mikopo yao ambayo wamechukua katika benki na taasisi nyingine za kibinafsi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ipo haja ya kuweza kuangalia tena huu mfumo wa ugatuzi kuhusiana na vile ambavyo tutaweza kuziboresha kaunti zetu, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, mfumo ambao uko sasa wa maendeleo na vile vile wa usimamizi unatoa fursa kubwa Mheshimiwa Spika kuhakikisha kwamba mambo mengi yanafanyika katika kaunti zetu bila ya kuwa na uangalizi wa kutosha. Mheshimiwa Spika, juzi nilibahatika na kamati yangu kuweza kuangalia kanuni ambazo zililetwa katika kamati yetu ya delegated legislation kuhusiana na vile ambavyo controller of budget ataweza kuhakikisha kwamba kuna stakabadhi za kisawasawa ili aweze kutoa pesa zile. Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa tuliona zile stakabadhi zimeletwa kwa njia, zile kanuni zimeletwa kwa njia nzuri, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, tuliona kwamba upo unyonge mkubwa katika ofisi ya control of budget, kwa sababu kwanza ofisi ile haipati fedha za kutosha, na vile vile kazi ambayo wanatakana kufanya ni kazi kubwa kabisa, kwa sababu kuangalia kaunti 47 Mheshimiwa Spika, kuangalia pia na serikali kuu ambazo na wizara zaidi ya 20 Mheshimiwa Spika, zote hizo ni karibu taasisi ama kaunti na taasisi za serikali karibu 67 Mheshimiwa Spika. Ikiwa hawakupata fedha za kutosha hawa Mheshimiwa, inamaanisha kwamba matumizi ya kaunti hizi yataweza kupelekwa bila ya kuwa na uangalizi wa kisawasawa Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo ipo haja Mheshimiwa Spika, ili kutilia nguvu ugatuzi na kutilia nguvu uwazi katika ugawavi wa fedha katika serikali Mheshimiwa Spika, upelekaji wa pesa katika serikali, hii ofisi ya controller of budget lazima itiliwe nguvu, kwa sababu ni kitengo muhimu katika masuala ya fedha na kuleta uwazi katika usimamizi wa fedha katika serikali yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo ninaunga mkono Mheshimiwa Spika mswada huu, na kwa kuwa ni wa mwisho kabla ya kwenda katika uchaguzi Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kuipongeza serikali kwa kuweza kuongeza fedha hizo, na wale waliokuwa wasema kwamba mkurupuko wa mabeo umeongezeka. Mheshimiwa Spika, mambo haya ni mbegu ambazo zilipandwa mwaka 2013 mpaka 17 Mheshimiwa Spika, na sasa ndio zinaonesha matunda yake, kwa sababu handshake ama ule uelewano uliofanyika baina ya Rais Kenyatta na Mheshimiwa Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga umeweza kuleta utulivu katika uchumi wetu, umeweza kuleta usalama katika nchi yetu, na vile vile Mheshimiwa Spika, umeweza kutoa nafasi ya maendeleo kufanyika. Leo tumeweza kuona Nairobi Express Highway iko karibu kwa tayari. Mheshimiwa Spika, kule Mombasa barabara yetu pia iko ya Makupa Causeway iko tayari, daraja nafikiri iko tayari in the next katika muda wa miezi mitatu minne, Mheshimiwa Spika, tutakuwa na daraja mpya katika Makupa Causeway. Badala ya Makupa Causeway itakuwa daraja la Makupa. Mheshimiwa Spika, na sehemu nyingi tumeona kwamba barabara zimeweza kujengwa na maendeleo yameweza kusongea katika nchi hizi county hizi, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo handshake ama ule uelewano baina ya Rais Kenyatta na pamoja na Raila Amolo Odinga, Mheshimiwa Spika, umeweza kusaidia pakubwa kuleta utulivu ule, kwa sababu yale yote ambayo serikali ya Jubilee iliweza kuahidi katika muhula wake wa kwanza, stadium hatukuziona Mheshimiwa Spika, laptop hatukuziona Mheshimiwa Spika, yale mabwawa ambayo yalikuwa yatakana ya kusudiwa kujengwa kama Aror na Kimwaror pia hatukuweza kuona, japokuwa pesa ziliweza kulipwa kuweza kufadhili ama kuweza kufadhili miradi hii. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona maendeleo yamekuja, na hii budget ya mwaka huu Mheshimiwa Spika, kuhusiana na ugawavi wa rasilimali kwa kaunti zetu, inamaanisha kwamba serikali inaitakia kaunti hizi na ugatuzi kwa jumla heri kubwa. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Senator Ole Kina Ledama.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me an opportunity to support this very, very timely bill, which is a Division of Revenue Bill 2022, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2022. Madam Speaker, this is the sole reason, I must argue, why we're in this House, is to defend the interests of our counties and their governments, is to be able to ensure that we represent the people who elect us, to give them an opportunity to be served by their government. Madam Speaker, I'm quite proud of this Senate, even though today it's quite empty, and I might be the only one standing here now. But the reason why I made sure that I come to contribute to this bill on the division of revenue is because of the solid work that the distinguished senators from the entire 47 counties, including the nominated senators, did to ensure that counties get their money. I'm so happy that we were able to remain adamant and to force for an increase of the money which is allocated to the counties. And if anything, Madam Speaker, it will be remembered in history as not having done anything, at least there'll be one thing that will always be credited for having done, which is to fight for devolution. Madam Speaker, as I support this bill, I'm quite pleased that over a period of about 5 years, the money that has been going to counties has steadily increased, and the money that has been left in the national government has also steadily increased. Madam Speaker, if you compare what was allocated to counties way back in the year 2018-2019, it was around about 371 billion in total. That also included, it was about, let me just see here, sorry. Sorry, Madam Speaker, we are getting old, so the font is quite small. But I'll get the right figure. But what makes me happy is that this year and last year, we've been able to increase the revenue from 327 billion to 370 billion. What bothers me, Madam Speaker, is that there is additional revenue which could have been sent to the county government in terms of conditional grants, but that money is still stuck in National Treasury because the Senate and the National Assembly have not been able to agree to mediate, to be able to come up with a legislation that can support how that money is going to be distributed. Madam Speaker, this year it is important for Kenyans to know, and I'll be very, very specific in terms of Narok County. Madam Speaker, since devolution, the amount of money that has been sent to the county government of Narok is around 71.6 billion. And also, Narok County has received about 2.29 billion from the CDF, which is from the other constituency offices. These are things that have been able to help. This year, Madam Speaker, I hope that in the 2022-2023 budget, the money which is allocated for the youth, in terms of when you look at the division of revenue, evaluating the bill against Article 203 of the Constitution, there is about 14.67 billion that I hope, even though this country does not have a position where you can say everybody is treated equally, there can be some form of equity. Because if you look at the amount of money that has supported the youth, Madam Speaker, since devolution started, the money that has gone to Narok County is only 5.48 million shillings. If this time around we can be solid and we can actually try to form some form of equity, I hope that around 312 million shillings, which is dividing the 14.6 billion equally among us, the 47 counties, Narok resident will get at least 312 million shillings that can support the youth projects. We keep on talking about the youth being an integral part of the economy of this country. But unless we force for them to be supported and money to be allocated to the youth fund that can be able to allow this youth in this country to develop, then we will be failing in our work. Madam Speaker, I know this is a very tough period where everyone is fighting to be re-elected, but I just hope that our colleagues will not forget that unless we come here and we pass the division of revenue, there's no way that our counties will be able to get. And even the government, which will come in the next financial year to utilize this budget, they will not be able to perform their duties. So, Madam Speaker, I want to call upon my colleagues to be able to come back, contribute to this very important division of revenue bill, so that we can also get an opportunity to do our kara, so to ensure that services will be rendered to our people in the counties. Madam Speaker, this bill and the drafters of this bill, when they are allocating the revenue that to be shared among the two levels of government, which is the national government and the county governments, I'm quite happy that they put the repayment of our debt as a priority. They put in the national interests of our country as a priority. We know the national government will remain with about 100 and maybe 60 billion to be able to fund most of its activities. But of importance is that out of a budget of about 2.4 trillion shillings, there is at least enough money, about 930 billion, which is being set aside to be able to pay for the national debt. So this division of revenue bill, Madam Speaker, is something which is very, very crucial, and I do hope that all the members will come in and support it and follow through to ensure that their counties get money. Madam Speaker, when we got into this parliament, my county of Narok was receiving about 4.2 billion. But now, because of the good work that we've been able to do and to remain adamant, the Narok County is at least getting about 8.8 billion, which is almost double the amount of money that the previous senator was able to push to Narok County. Madam Speaker, when you look at the content of this bill, the bill is drafted in a way that the money which is sent to the county governments will enable county governments to be able to perform their duties. But there's a big challenge, Madam Speaker. When you sit in the Public Accounts and Investment Committee, and also even get a chance to go through the Auditor General report, you'll find that we still have a very big problem when it comes to the issue of wage bill. And this is as a result of the defunct local authorities or the staff who was seconded to the county government by the defunct local authority. I would have hoped, Madam Speaker, that the Committee of Budget in the National Assembly and also in the Senate, when drafting the division of revenue bill, would have considered a one-time honorarium or other, sent-off package for those staff who are yet to get to their retirement age, but are really literally just rendered, useless in the workforce. That's why you find that some counties will have, let's say the establishment is supposed to have about 10 people, but they have about 200. 190 of them are from the defunct local authorities, and they are not doing anything. So, Madam Speaker, I would have hoped that instead of allocating a lot of money to this MES scandal, which has not worked, money would have been allocated to county governments to be able to retire staff who are increasing the wage bill, and they are not helping, so that at least counties can become efficient. Madam Speaker, if you go to Narok County, you will find that there are staff who are about maybe 200 or 300 who are in the payroll, but their productivity level is very low because they don't qualify in any, even if it's in administration or any other category, because their work is not defined in the current county government structure. So, Madam Speaker, I would hope that at least we can be able to figure out how to solve these problems once and for all. Otherwise, it will continue being an audit query year in, year out. Madam Speaker, one of the other reasons why I support this bill, but it leaves a lot to be desired, is because of the issue of the equalization fund. Madam Speaker, I know the Constitution defines how much should be set aside for the equalization fund, but I do hope that those Kenyans who worked the last 10 years, who have been putting, who are given project by the Ministry of Planning to be able to do things on this equalization fund will be paid their money. Yes, the equalization fund has set aside 7 billion to be able to support these marginalized counties. But what happened to the money which is still in that fund that has not been utilized? So, Madam Speaker, it is a question that I hope that National Treasury will be able to resolve once and for all. We passed the regulations in this House. We actually also appointed people to serve in that board. I hope that this time around, those Kenyans who worked, who are given tenders to be able to build clinics, to be able to do boreholes, to be able to do roads in those marginalized counties can be paid their money. And that in this 7.068 billion, which has been reserved for the equalization fund, that fund can be used to support youth initiative and projects in marginalized communities. Madam Speaker, it is quite evident that in this country, it depends on who you know for you to be given a tender or for you to be able to actually, uplift the standard of living of either yourself or your community. But I do hope that in this division of revenue, we would give priority in every institution, even the county government that we are giving money, they would give priority to the youth, they would give priority to women, so that we can try and narrow down on the gap between the rich and the poor. Madam Speaker, the total share revenue is about 2.1 billion. There's about 1.7 billion in the national government. But sometimes when people see, a trillion, forgive me, 1.7 trillion. But sometimes when people see those big numbers, 1.7 trillion, they say, hey, county government should get more money. But I think people should be alive to the fact that our debt is quite high and that national government carries out so many other functions that county governments do not carry. On the issue of the equalization, the evaluation of the bill against Article 203 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, it is important for Kenyans to know that there is money which is set aside for the interest of the security sector. There is money which is set aside to provide for assessment to the extent at which required by the Article 203 in terms of, one, the issue to do with helping the agricultural sector. Because right now we are all crying, Madam Speaker, talking about challenges with the cost of fertilizer. I'm sure fertilizer not being available, it affects our food security. So there's some money from the national government, and this money, which is part of the 1.7 trillion shillings, should actually find its way to farmers. So I hope that in the national government, and particularly the Ministry of Agriculture, in their budget, they can be able to put in a lot of resources to provide local solutions instead of us relying on the outside world. Look at what is happening, Madam Speaker, today. You know, in Ukraine, where we import a lot of wheat from, in Russia, where we import a lot of wheat from, there is war now. There are sanctions which have been imposed to Russia. There is no way, Madam Speaker, this war will not affect our people. Very soon, Madam Speaker, whether we are in a political season, whether we want to agree and separate facts from fiction, the price of unga will go high. The price of ungangano will be, it will make literally eating chapati or bread a luxury because it will become so expensive. So I do hope that the Ministry of Agriculture, when formulating its own budget, they can be able to try in and invest in local solutions to improve our food security. The challenge, Madam Speaker, is that all these departments of the Ministry of the National Government, like if you go to the Department of Devolution or the Ministry of Devolution, if you go to the Ministry of Agriculture, when they draft their budgets, most of the money is left here in Nairobi. That money does not go. There's a lot of money which is used for conferences. There's a lot of money which is used for seminars. There's a lot of money which is used for research and development in Nairobi, in boardrooms, or travels abroad. I think this time around, Madam Speaker, we need to now look at the amount of money that we have, and more money should be sent to the devolved units so that they can be able to perform their functions. Agriculture is devolved, but you will find that a lot of the money is left in Nairobi. Madam Speaker, we know of big government parastatals, like this one that has a lot of land. What do you call it? ADC. ADC gets its money from either the Ministry of Agriculture or some money is allocated to them and for them to do their research and development. But if you follow, Madam Speaker, the work that ADC does, which should be supporting the local people, end up only supporting a few individuals. There's a lot of land which is staying idle, which could be used to be able to produce food to support local communities. Madam Speaker, every year, in between the month of March and sometimes March and April, when the rains have decided not to come, this country is littered with carcasses of dead animals. If we can take advantage, Madam Speaker, of the flood rains, and we use money, which we are dividing now between the two levels of government, and allocate a lot of money to agencies like those of ADC, and plant fodder for animals, then our own people, the pastoralists, we either in Narok, in northern Kenya, will not suffer because they'll have grass that county governments can be able to acquire or that can be able to distribute to them. We spend more money, Madam Speaker, buying food, corruption gets in the way to go and deliver, and people don't benefit. This time around, Madam Speaker, I hope that the Ministry of Agriculture will become a little bit creative and allocate resources to agencies and require results. Every year we hear of rapid results initiative. We want to see results that will protect and defend our national interests. When people are hungry, it becomes a national security risk. When people do not have anywhere, when people are jobless, they also end up suffering. We have a lot of money that is reserved because of these national security issues. When you look at the Division of Revenue bill against Article 203, that when utilized properly, it can be able to solve most of the problems that we have here. Madam Speaker, there are issues that affect us, the Maasais, as an example. We know today our brothers in Tanzania who cross back and forth, who are able to bring in their cows to Narok, to Kajiado, are now suffering because of the actions being taken by their government, where we have over 80,000 Maasais who are facing eviction from their homes because of interest of protecting wild animals. I do hope, Madam Speaker, that at least because of the interest of the East African community, our brothers in the Tanzanian government can save these Maasais from being forcefully evicted from their areas. Because once they are evicted, they cross into Narok, they cross into Kajiado, then of course we stress our economy. We have brothers and sisters in Tanzania. So, Madam Speaker, I want to call upon and take this advantage and call upon even the president of Tanzania to save our people from being forcefully moved out of their land in Ngorongoro, in Loliondo district. You know, whenever you see about 80,000 people praying to God because they are facing eviction from their land, you should not only think about what is happening to them then, but you should think about the consequences. They will cross into Narok, they will cross into Kajiado, although we welcome them, but it will be stressing our limited resources. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I fully support the Division of Revenue Bill, and I do hope that this issue of the MES, the Medical Equipment Scheme, can become a thing of the past. We need to agree whether we are going to continue leasing this equipment or we are going to buy them. Because this issue of leasing this equipment is really a scandal, Madam Speaker. We know we debated that issue in this parliament, but the truth of the matter is, if you go to West Pokot today, Madam Speaker, you will find equipment that are lying in a store that have never been used. If you go to Narok County, you will find equipment from MES that are lying in the stores that have never been used, yet county governments are paying for those equipments. Madam Speaker, I think it's about time for all of us to remember that we will be judged harshly by history if we continue allowing scandals. And we know they are scandals. But because of political interest, we end up keeping quiet. It is about time that we say no to impunity. We say that we must support. If health is devolved, let us support, let us divide more money to go to counties. I know when BBI finally comes back, I know the former Prime Minister and our party leader and hopefully our fifth president will send about a minimum of 35% of the revenues to go back into counties. At that point, we will not need to be leasing. I'd rather each county leases and controls so that they can lease what they require. But this issue of the Ministry of Health leasing all the equipment in a central location really disfranchise many other counties. So, Madam Speaker, this is a very important bill, and the only way we can ensure that everything which is here is implemented is even in the county assemblies for them to read. Because the money which is sent to them, they are supposed to ensure that they carry out their functions. Madam Speaker, there is no reason as to why we should have pending bills. Those pending bills comes in as a result of lack of a fiduciary responsibility in the hands of the accounting officers. They need to be accountable. They need to know that we in the Senate are pushing money to them, and we are fighting heavy battles to be able to send that money to them. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Hargura Godana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the Division of Revenue Bill debate. Madam Speaker, this is one of the main responsibilities of this House, participating in the Division of Revenue of the equitable share amongst the national and the county governments, what is known as the vertical division. Madam Speaker, I'd always like to refer to the clauses, like in this case, clause 5 of the bill, which states very clearly in the events that, in part 1, in the event that there is under collection, then the counties should get whatever they have been allocated. And in the event of a collection of the revenue, then it goes to the national government. We have to keep this in mind always, because there was a time there was an attempt to reduce the revenues going to the county because there was under collection. Madam Speaker, if we look at the main items in the schedule, we're talking of the total shareable revenue, then the national government, the equalization fund, and the county funds. This year, the total shareable revenue is estimated to be 2.14 trillion shillings, where the national government is to get 1.764 trillion. 7 billion is supposed to go to equalization fund, and the county government equitable share is proposed to be 370 billion. Madam Speaker, it should not be lost on anybody that this is exactly the same amount allocated in the last financial year to the counties. And why, while the revenue, the total shareable revenue has increased by 20%, because the last one, in the last financial year was 1.7 trillion, and now in this financial year we are having, in fact, 1.765 trillion, and this financial year we are having 2.141 trillion. That's an increase of about 20%. Then there is no increase to the national, to the county government, and even just taking into account inflation. Inflation itself is estimated to be 5.4% this year. That will mean that for you to maintain still that level of budget, then you should have increased, in terms of service delivery, then you should have increased at least by that 5.4%, which will be some extra 22 billion shillings. If we go by the increase in revenue, then that will mean an increase of 20%. That will be about 74 billion shillings. The total increase of the equitable share could have been between 450 to 470 billion total. That will be an increase of 80 to 100 billion shillings. But we don't see that. So the rationale behind keeping the county share fixed or stagnant at 370, while the equitable, the shareable revenue has increased by 20%, there is an inflation of 5%, needs to be explained, because as senators, our main responsibility is to protect the interests of the counties and their governments, and this is one of the major interests, is what they get as equitable share. So in that case, personally, I don't agree with giving the counties 370 billion. It should be from 450 billion upwards, because even if you take into account only the inflation, we should be talking about 392 billion. If you take into account only inflation without any change of revenue, while we know very well revenue has increased by 20%, then it should be much more than that. So a minimum of 450 billion to the counties should be what we should be advocating for as Senate, whose responsibility is to take care of the interests of the counties and their governments. Madam Speaker, on the issue of equalization fund, this is a fund which is clearly in our constitution because of our acknowledging that parts of these countries have been left behind. There has been marginalization in many parts of this country, and that is why in Article 204 of the Constitution, we clearly indicated that there shall be an equalization fund, which will be 0.5% of the current or the most recent audited revenue. And if you look at what is there now, because this fund has not been utilized to date, it's only once when it was attempted, and even that time it was stopped. And if you look at what is there now, if you go by the Constitution is very clear. It says that 0.5% of the most recent audited amount need to be allocated. Then it talks of, for it to be used, then CRA shall be consulted in recommendations considered, and its recommendation considered before Parliament passes any bill appropriating money out of equalization fund, which means the fund will still be there, monies will still be going to that fund since the promulgation of this Constitution. It's only the usage which will require that CRA recommendation, which the first phase or the first CRA recommendation, which was adopted by this House in the last Parliament, was the funds going to 14 counties. But if you look at what has been allocated to date, in the first 3 years since the promulgation of the Constitution, 2010, that is from financial year 2011 to 2012 to 2013, 2014, there was no allocation to the equalization fund. The fund was there, created by the Constitution, but there was no allocation. If you look at the argument being used, it's because there was no recommendation from CRA as to how the funds should be shared. But the Constitution is very clear. The funds are supposed to be the fund is supposed to be 0.5% of the most recent audited account from the first year of the funds being created, that is 2011, 2012 of the Constitution. Then from there onwards, there should have been monies allocated to the fund. And because there was that because the funds were not allocated for the first 3 years, then there was allocation for the next 3 years, that is from 2014-15 up to 2016-17. Then 2017-18 and 18-19, still there was no allocation. So somebody was not following the Constitution, and up to now, we are told that by those financial, up to 2019-20, there was only 12.4 billion shillings allocated to the equalization fund. But going by the Constitution, if the deductions or the allocation was done from 2011, 2012 to 2019, 2020, then we should be having 34 billion shillings, which means already, because of not following the law, the fund has lost 22 billion shillings, not being deducted 6 years. That is already an issue. And then if you add the last 2 years, then you're talking about another extra 13 billion, so it should be 48 billion by now. But if you add now, then we'll just be having 25. So we have lost close to 23 billion because somebody was not doing the deduction during the budgeting. Then that fund has not yet been utilized. It's only this year when the advisory board has been established. So we'd like to know how that fund will be utilized so that taking into account that this is a fund which has a sunset clause, it's supposed to be 20 years from 2010. By 2030, the fund should have lapsed, and we only have 8 years to go, but we have not utilized any of that money. That shows how serious we are as Kenyans when it comes to tackling marginalization. There is very little seriousness in terms of trying to tackle marginalization in parts of this country. That's why even funds which are in the Constitution are not being set aside as required by law, and even when they are set aside, they are not being utilized, because if the problem was having a board, then Treasury should have seen this from the beginning, and in the first Parliament, in the first Senate, that is in the 11th Parliament, this should have been handled. But because there was no that goodwill, if I may say, in addressing marginalization, that fund has not been utilized, proper deduction has not been done, up to now there is no implementation. So Treasury needs to take serious action so that from this year, we need to see now with the advisory board in place, how the 25 billion which will have been collected by now will be utilized, and even how, because now we have the second formula by CRA or recommendation, which covers many more parts of this country because of the definition of marginalized areas. So we intend to, I hope there will be goodwill this time to utilize whatever has been collected, taking into account it's not even the actual amount as per the Constitution, and up to now there is no implementation. Madam Speaker, on the part of the equitable share, I've said that with the figure given there is not realistic, because in the last financial year we gave the same figure, so we need to increase, taking into account the situation as it is, more revenue generated, inflation. The other issue I'd like to address is, while we are tackling this, counties also need to improve their revenue sources, the issue of on-source revenue. If you look at the audit reports which have been coming to the Senate, counties have been collecting less than what they even set as their own target. At the beginning, when they do their budget each year, they estimate the revenue they are supposed to collect. Then at the end of the year, when the auditing is done, very few, if any, county meets its own set target which they set themselves based on the revenue streams they have, based on the previous year's collections and all that. They still don't attain that target. So counties need to understand that they are governments which have the capacity to generate their own revenue. So they need to properly map their revenue streams. They need to properly seal any loopholes through which money is lost, because when they do manual collection, there is loss of funds at source by the revenue collectors, the revenue officers. Then there are cases where counties collect money, yes, but they spend at source without first submitting it to the CRF or establishing proper funds the way the law allows them. When they have funds, like in case of health, they can have funds which the monies they collect from the health institution can be deposited to and spent, so it's audited and it doesn't have to come to CRF. But even that they don't do. So we have all those questions. So basically, let them focus on what they can do for themselves instead of concentrating on what comes from the national government, because they have that capacity to collect revenue. They are supposed to, in some cases, they are even collecting less than what the defunct local authorities used to collect, while they have better facilities in terms of they have better, because of the resources they have, they employ more revenue collectors. They can automate all their revenue streams. Up to now, we are even struggling with counties who 10 years down the line have not even updated their nominal rolls in terms of the land rates. So it's like the mentality at the county is to wait for what comes from the national government. They are not putting their effort in collecting revenue, that is their own source revenue. So mine is to urge the counties, while we are here advocating for more funds to the counties, like what we went through the other year when we are working on the formula, they should also endeavor to collect their own revenues. They should also endeavor to improve their own source revenue generation, so that I think at the end of the day, where we are heading to should be a case where county governments, when they have resources, could actually fund up to even half or most of their budget, because the more they generate, the more service they can provide, the more they can improve and develop their counties. And that's where we should be heading, because with devolution, there must be responsibility. We should not just be waiting for funds from the center, and we should not just be always be expecting more funds from the center, because as we are seeing, with the kind of revenues you are generating and the kind of debts we have, the funds available for sharing will be decreasing, because we have more debts to service at the national level, so they have to concentrate on the on-source generated revenue. So with that, Madam Speaker, I'd like to say that I don't support the 370 billion going to the counties, and I'd like to urge my colleagues that we have to match it, much as it's campaign time, and you may not focus on this and you may lose this. We have to make sure that counties get realistically more money, because of the existing conditions where there is inflation and where the revenue has increased. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Sakaja Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the Division of Revenue Bill 2022. And I thank the Leader of Majority for moving this important bill. This is indeed one of the most salient, or rather most important functions of both the Senate and National Assembly, because it is what underpins the most important part of our Constitution, which is devolution, and our county governments. Madam Speaker, in terms of the philosophy around devolution, and something that we always must get right, is that devolution is not about the national government supporting county government. Devolution is a relationship between two levels of government. Division of revenue is not the national government's money being given to counties. It is revenue raised throughout the country, and then we say, since as Kenyans we've raised this amount, this particular amount goes to the national government, and this amount goes to the county governments. This is going to be the last year of the second term of devolution. And I think as we pass this bill, it's very important for us to stocktake and to see how successful we have been and what needs to be refined. I was very pleased in the last parliament where Honorable Mutava Musimi-led Budget Committee came up with an analysis, a review of, an audit, actually, it was an audit of devolution of the new structures of government. It was a constitutional audit. And I think that would have informed a lot of the provisions in any attempts to change our laws, because they looked at the practicality of the provisions, they looked at the challenges that county governments have been facing. Madam Speaker, even as we pass this, and I'm very happy as a senator for Nairobi, contrary to what some people try to say out there. Madam Speaker, when I became senator, Nairobi was getting 15 billion. We have fought, we pushed, we had a whole fight here in the Senate where Nairobi was going to get an increase of 135 million. But the outcome of that all was that Nairobi got an increase of 3.3 billion, and that now we're at 19 billion. Madam Speaker, if you look at the increases from 2013, it would have taken like another 20 years to get that kind of an increase, because the increase has been in 50 million, 100 million. But to move Nairobi from 15 to 19 billion, Madam Speaker, is something that I'm proud of as I serve as a senator, and proud of the Senate, because I think everyone was able to score. We said we can have a win-win situation where we get that money, and that's why we have 370 billion, which I think is a good amount. Madam Speaker, having said that, I think it's very important for us, and I like what Senator Argura said, to really look at, and I think earlier on it was either Ledama or someone, to look at really this money in terms of what you end up doing. Counties were not designed, and especially because of the formulas used, to be competitive. Because if a formula is focusing a lot on population only and poverty and whatnot, there is no index or indicator of how well a county is doing. In India, in their formula, they have what they call the provincial GDP as one of the variables, the growth in GDP. Such that if a county is able to produce, to grow in terms of its production, of course you want to compare Nairobi economic growth with Mandera or something, but the jump, the increase, then it is incentivized to actually, by getting more money, to do those activities that are increasing the amount of money that the county gets, Madam Speaker. So we have variables that measure darkness and not light, and we need to move that. And I think in this next phase, we need to look at that. Number two, counties have not been thinking out of the box on how to increase their revenue. We always talk about baking, dividing the pie, dividing the bread, but no one talks about baking the bread. Madam Speaker, we might even need soon a committee on revenue generation, because we just have a commission on revenue allocation. When everybody talks about allocation in a country, a middle-income economy, on paper as ours is, then you're in trouble. You're going to have a challenge down the line. Remember our debt levels, remember the challenge of unemployment, and the issue of cost of living. So we really need to have creativity within our governors. Madam Speaker, I hope and I pray, God willing, if the people of Nairobi give me the mandate, to increase the revenue of Nairobi to 50 billion. You can actually be able to increase the revenue of Nairobi County to 50 billion. We passed sectional properties law here with an efficient county government that has automated all revenue streams and that is not fighting with its people, that is carrying the people along. You know, last week I was in Gikomba and the ladies say they want to pay, but they never see someone cleaning. Yeah? So why should they pay that 50 shillings? And then when you want to get them to pay, you have KRA with, with almost, I think, GSU officers forcing out money from people. You never raise revenue that way. But President Kibaki told us kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea, in quotes, Madam Speaker. And because of that, we were able to increase our revenue generation. So with that creativity, automating this, showing Nairobians this is the actual service you're getting from what you're paying, I am confident we'll be able to increase the revenue. And the reason I'm saying it is critical, if you look at the budget in Nairobi County, for instance, and I have to speak about my county, a lot of it, actually almost everything that we give Nairobi as a Senate goes to pay salaries. It is just salaries, you know? Meaning Nairobians are paying taxes just to keep people in offices. We need to address that. There was a program by the World Bank that was coming in to help ease the debt, the wage burden in Nairobi County. It is still very necessary, and I hope, and I've spoken to General Badi, that before he finishes his term, because the good thing is that, NMS can make certain decisions that would be very difficult for politicians to make, that they actually help us rationalize that aspect in the best and humane and, in the best way possible, so that we have some headroom. We might blame the governors who've been there, but without headroom to actually do development, Madam Speaker, the county government is just like a cash office. You just receive, you're a cashier, you receive this money and you pay salaries. You do very little development. Madam Speaker, all senators are sent for what we call exchequer release reports. I don't know if anyone looks at them, but I look at mine for Nairobi. Madam Speaker, we have an approved budget, for instance, of 39 billion. We're in March. As of the end of February, Madam Speaker, Nairobi County, of course, the approved requisitions of money spent, recurrent, was 12.5 billion. And look at the time we are in. Development money that has been spent is only 700 million throughout the financial year. 771,509,137. That tells you there's a big problem. There's a huge problem. That is 6% of what should have been spent throughout the year. And we're already going towards the end of the financial year, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that tells you that very little is happening apart from paying of salaries. And that is why you're seeing your streets are not being cleaned. That's why we're seeing there are no new projects being done on roads. We're not able to address the water issues. We're not able to address where the Nairobian is being pinched because of these slow releases. And just 6 billion yet, 6% yet. From that exchequer release report, you see Nairobi, emergency fund, whose budget was 140 million, has been overdrawn as of February 28th, and they've already spent 202 million on emergency. What emergency has occasioned the expenditure of 202 million? Madam Speaker, if we're not keen about this, reports we get, then there's no oversight we can play. And Madam Speaker, I have requested last week a statement of assets and liabilities and the financial state of Nairobi, including the 4.4 billion loan that they wanted to audit, to auction assets. And I have seen a response has been sent. The NMS and the county government must come and answer to Nairobians. Madam Speaker, if you look at that report, and because it's very relevant, because we're talking about division of revenue, if you look at that report, areas such as in development, urban renewal and housing, there's nothing that has been spent on that. NMS is what has been receiving, and in total on development, in the year they've received 7.3 billion only. So where are they getting money? That is what I was showing you as 37.9%. In total, it's been 6%, Madam Speaker. The emergency fund, meanwhile, 240 million, 202 million. There is a problem somewhere, Madam Speaker, and we must be vigilant. Because when you go around this city, people are suffering. People are not getting services from the county. Garbage has crept back. There's a lot of heaps and piles of budget when you go around. the city of Nairobi and many counties. And so these are questions that must be answered by General Badi. I have seen that General Badi and Ann Kananu have extended the NMS beyond August. I don't know about the constitutionality of that. They say the 3 months is to hand over to the next governor. I think that handover process must be expedited because it is through that process that cracks emerge, Madam Speaker. And that's why we've already asked for a schedule of all of those assets and liabilities. I know we passed a law here, which is Assumption of Office of Governor Act, which provides for that to be done within 28 days after the election. I think within 28 or 30 days after the election, the announcement of the result of who becomes the governor. 3 months of another entity actively implementing constitutional mandate of devolution of a county governor, Madam Speaker, is stretching it. They should be starting the handover now, so that you just have 1 month after the election of a governor. And a pragmatic governor, like I hope to be, would be able to say, look, these certain aspects of NMS are working. Maintain that aspect that's working. This one has not been working. Let's change it, and it can be a department under the Nairobi County government. If you're pragmatic, if it's not just about getting glory and, thinking about yourself. So they should not have that panic, because when I come in, inshallah, God willing, we will maintain what is working. The Americans say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, But you see, you find they've bought so many cars, they've painted them blue. Will they change? They have branded everything in blue and red. Will you change back? Because the county assembly has a law that talks about even the colors that you need to have. So, all of those things need to be done. I expected in this division of revenue, Madam Speaker, a very important thing to be addressed. When you look at the factors, one of them is national interest. And national interest at a time like this must factor what is happening globally that is going to affect us, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the cost of living and food, because of what is happening in Ukraine and Russia, is going to affect us. Already, 70% of all our wheat and even fertilizer comes from that region. We've seen prices going up. People are suffering. At least I can speak for my people. They are suffering and no one is talking the language of the common man. Salad oil, we call it salad for cooking, moved from 250 shillings, Madam Speaker, to 400 shillings. Rice per kg from 70 shillings to 120 shillings as we speak. Bread already, even before the crisis creeps in, from 45 shillings to 60 shillings, Madam Speaker. Maize flour is another case, from 90 to 110 thereabout. And it keeps going up. In fact, I've discussed with a lot of the people who deal with retail. And they're saying that in the next 2 months, Madam Speaker, our people might even revolt because things are going to go up. It's a very bad time to be an incumbent. Yeah? In fact, they might even go up to almost 600 shillings for that oil. What do you want the common person in Nairobi to do if you can't cushion them? And that is why a good parliament, you can see how many we are here. At this time, we should be talking about basic commodity subsidy bill, on basic commodities, not to introduce price control, but if it goes beyond a certain amount of money, for the common mwananchi, the government should be able to cushion through that basic commodity subsidies law that I would love to sponsor. It's just that when you sponsor something in this house, they say it is a money bill. But that is the most important thing that needs to be addressed. Madam Speaker, that conflict is going to affect the trading routes. It's going to affect the fact that farmers themselves do not feel safe enough to go to their farms in that area of the world, and so they are not farming. Madam Speaker, it's going to affect so much the potash area, of potassium and whatnot for fertilizer is actually under threat. So I think that should have been incorporated so that we have a cushioning. Madam Speaker, we've seen what we call transfer of functions from county government to national government. What we'd want to see, Madam Speaker, and I'm speaking for my county, we are going to ask for certain functions of national government to be transferred to Nairobi. One of them is actually giving our people food, especially in school. The school feeding program, because many of our children go to school and have nothing to eat. It is very painful. Senator Pogisho, you have gone to schools in your county, and when you interact with the children, you ask them what do they want. They'll tell you, oh, you want a school bus, or you want balls to play. And I remember when I went to a school in Dagoretti North last year, and the children, when you ask them what do you want, and they say food. As a parent, you want to cry. Because children have nothing, there's nothing at home. And even the program that we are partnering with the Food for Education by a lady called Wawira, where the children are being given 650 grams of food. They're eating just a half, the other half they're taking home to the other siblings. So, Madam Speaker, that issue of national interest with respect to food needs to be addressed by both the national and county government in this division of revenue. Further to that, we hope that we shall have proper accountability. I know many times we think that it's the counties that are corrupt, but remember that is a small percentage. A lot of it stays at the national level. We had a very big, push, and there was a lot of razzmatazz, and it's a lot of arrests and whatnot. But I think it cooled down. We need to see real accountability and real responses, Madam Speaker, to the concerns of Kenyans. I hope that the next senator for Nairobi will be somebody who will make sure we get another 3 billion, increase it even as we increase the revenue. Madam Speaker, I'm sure you'll be in this house, so you'll be able to make sure that my replacement is able to help us, and even the other senators. Because Arise, and this Senate must congratulate itself, that this Senate has actually moved us to 370 billion. I know we'll discuss, there's that fight about where the conditional grants and the conditional allocations, but just that milestone from 316.5 to 370 is actually a serious feather in the cap of the Senate. And so we hope those who move from this house to other positions, MPs, governors, etc., especially those who are going to be governors, do not forget the good work and the fight that the Senate has done. So you hear Governor Sakaja has refused to be summoned by the Senate. You come and pinch me by the ear and pick me from City Hall, Madam Speaker. I've given you the permission. And remind me what we used to stand for. Madam Speaker, I'm not being presumptuous. It is hope. They say hope is a good breakfast but a bad supper. But you must be hopeful and you must be optimistic that we shall be able to do this. So, Madam Speaker, I pray that, and of course it says here that from the 370 billion, an allocation which remains unchanged, this is an unconditional allocation, which means county governments can plan, budget, and spend. Of course, we could have wanted it to be more, but that amount in itself is a sacrifice. I thank the President for having gotten there. It was actually a sacrifice for that deal to be done. I hope the next president will be a president who supports devolution. And of course, you know who I have in mind. Who supports devolution and who can make sure that we move beyond that 370 and not stagnate. Madam Speaker, with those very many remarks, I support this bill. And I hope that, I know that you must truncate the debate because the Leader of Majority is here to reply. It is unfortunate that very few senators have been able to speak to the most important legislation, which is division of revenue. But I'm sure many are following online. And when it comes to committee, we shall be able to hear suggestions that can improve this division of revenue. So that it's not just a rubber stamp. I know the Leader of Majority says we can be a conveyor belt, but some improvements sometimes can be able to help this. Madam Speaker, unless you're creative, and I know I said that I'm going to wind up, but I know after this business we might have no business. Madam Speaker, unless you're creative as a governor and you only depend on this, your county cannot grow completely. I've explained to you 18 billion wage bill in Nairobi County, and that's what we're giving them. So what they're raising, if you want to sort out the mass transit problem in Nairobi, for instance, traffic, and you want to sort, because we need proper, 6 lines of proper heavy rail in this city, there's no other way you can sort it out. To sort out mass transit, then to sort out the water system, which is the actual physical infrastructure of water. I'll just finish that point. Just the water infrastructure, the piping, the SCADA technology, plus the northern collector which is coming in. Just those two things and solid waste, you need 200 billion shillings. Where are you going to get 200 billion shillings in 19 billion, 20 billion? You have to be creative. Johannesburg is listed. They have done an infrastructure bond where we say that we discount our revenues for the next 10, 15 years and get that money at a go and transform the city. There is no other way. I support it.
Thank you, Senator Sakaja. Of course, with a rider that you have hopes for all of us, and we leave it to God to answer that prayer. Senator Pogisio, we have no other requests, so you may reply.
Madam Speaker, I beg to reply. And decry, Madam Speaker, the fact that in other jurisdictions, when you are dealing with the Division of Revenue Bill, senators, members of parliament, senators should be scrambling to speak to this kind of bill. Because you can imagine, Madam Speaker, this is the most important thing that we do here. And this is the thing that defines devolution and the reason for which the Senate exists. And so I know that people are busy looking for votes, but this is a time they should all be trooping back into the Senate to speak to this one. Very soon, we will, of course, have the CARA, we will have the disbursement schedules and so on, but I'd like to commend all those who have spoken, Madam Speaker, starting with the Senator for Nairobi here, who has a lot to say, and especially hoping that he becomes the governor of Nairobi. So, Madam Speaker, I have a number who have spoken here. We had Senator Orengo, who seconded, and I want to say thank you, because the perspective that he brings to the table is very interesting. Madam Speaker, we've had Senator Cherargei speak, we've had Senator Musurube speak, we had Senator Faki, we had Senator Argura, I don't know who else. Faki, who are this? So I think those are the ones that spoke. But
Olekina also spoke.
Okay, yes, and of course there's Senator Olekina also spoke. So I want to say thank you to them for understanding the importance of this bill. This is, at this moment in time, the most important bill. I just think that the governors who are coming in next will be very fortunate because they'll be having to be creative. They will be having, unfortunately, they'll be having so many, unfortunately, they'll be, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, they'll be having so many, they're inheriting so many pending bills and things like that. But they have to be creative to deal with them. And Madam Speaker, I really want to say this of this year's Division of Revenue Bill, that it has been prepared under very difficult circumstances. First of all, of revenue collection, and then definitely of trying to balance between the national government and the devolved units. And so we appreciate the fact that at least as a country, our economy, in spite of all these challenges, our economy has been strong, and that we're able to have a budget and deal with at least 2.1 trillion, and be able then to give up the 370 billion to the counties. And that is a good indicator that we haven't gone below what we were getting the last financial year. And so I do really want to commend those who, especially KRA and others, who are working to make sure that they collect revenue, and the government and the Ministry of Finance, the Treasury, for being able then to look at what is in the best interest of the country. We've talked about the challenges. We spoke about the fact that people will have to be creative in order to survive. We've talked about the difficulty of life and the cost of living, Madam Speaker, the cost of living today, the challenge that you have. And you know, you've heard from the city that the Center for Nairobi is talking about. But those of us who come to the rural areas, we can express even worse fears, not just in the farming sector, but also even just in the livestock sector, the problems anticipated because of lack of rains that have exacerbated the situation. And so, Madam Speaker, I do not want to revisit what members have said. I just want to say thank you. It's a very important bill. I don't want to overemphasize that. It's important. It's part of our constitutional duty, especially for the Senate. And so with those remarks, hoping that we can expedite the passing of this bill. But, Madam Speaker, I want to request the referral of the putting of the question to a later date, pursuant to a standing order 61.3, and I beg to reply. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, this bill being a matter that touches on counties, and we cannot therefore proceed for division. The matter is there, the bill is therefore deferred to the next sitting. Honorable Senators, earlier on I had rearranged the order paper for us to be able to deal with the revenue, the bill that touches on revenue allocation to the counties. I therefore now proceed to defer orders 8, which was 8, 9, were orders on that were to proceed for division. We don't have the numbers for that. And also proceed to defer orders 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Honorable Senators, there being no other business in the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until Wednesday, 23rd March 2022 at 2:30 p.m.